Night, cloudy, moonless. New Jersey. Roadside motel. The narrow bathroom, the dim light, reflected a slender and fit figure on the mirror with a missing piece at one corner. A man. A very handsome man. Slightly curly shoulder-length hair, melancholy eyes, stubbled beard. If such a man haunts nightclubs, he will definitely attract the attention of one beautiful lady after another, making them wonder how to get him home. But that's not what makes him special. He was wearing a black combat uniform, but his jacket had no left sleeve. The exposed metal arm with a very mechanical beauty, and a bright red 5-star mark painted on his shoulders were the only ones. With such a handsome face, such a figure, and such an aura, it would be a pity not to make a movie, raise a dog, drive a muscle car to a gas station, or wear sunglasses, smoke a cigarette, and go to blow up Arasaka in a rock-style taw. It must be no worse than the original one. Tisk, if this is really a movie, how wonderful it would be. He seemed to be very satisfied with his appearance. He made fun of himself in the mirror, but he let out a long sigh, followed by his serious eyes, stared at his own eyes in the mirror, and said in a deep voice. Longing for. Rusty, 17, dawn, stove, 9, kindness, homecoming, 1, wagon. He whispered these completely unconnected words in standard Russian with a very magnetic voice. He saw his pupils dilate sometimes, and his eyes were blank sometimes. After he finished reading, truck, he was in a trance for a few seconds, but it felt long and far away. It seems to be back not long ago, when another person said this to himself. Rewind time, 3 days ago. Siberia. Somewhere a secret military base. Tongbo's consciousness woke up leisurely. Okay? He looked at an unfamiliar scene in front of him. He was restrained on a chair, surrounded by special instruments, his head was fixed, and beside him was a man in a white coat with a big bald head and glasses. There are several foreign soldiers in military uniforms, red berets, and guns in the periphery. Can't figure out what's going on here at all. He only remembered that he was originally a Blue Star laborer, and then on the eve of the release of Cyberpunk 2077, the soul of the laborer exploded. In addition to the good fortune, he also worked part-time and took private jobs. Finally, he saved enough money to buy the 3080 Ti. Sitting in front of the computer, experiencing the awesomeness of Cyberpunk 2077's light-chasing effect beautifully, I felt tired all night before I knew it, and then I was tired and my eyes went dark. I'm going, isn't it this? An extremely absurd, and panic-stricken thought just flashed through his mind. In an instant, the sound of electric current rang in my ears. What? Then, there was an indescribable pain. He is just an ordinary Blue Star worker in modern society, and his tolerance for severe pain is almost zero. And the sudden pain he felt was as if someone sawed open his skull with a chainsaw first, and then rubbed his brain with sandpaper after opening it. This made him roar like a hog-killing scream. In an instant, his newly awakened consciousness was overwhelmed by indescribable pain. He has no way to think, no way to analyze, what is the situation? Why don't you let me die? That was the only thought on his mind. Unfortunately, he couldn't die. Moreover, his weak will was unable to activate the brain's self-protection mechanism, causing him to fall into a coma. Just keep torturing him like this. And just when he was tortured and was about to go crazy. His eyes finally went black, but still not fainted. In the darkness, red and blue neon blocks flashed before his eyes. Following that, a progress bar marked "System Restarting" appeared in the center of the field of vision. This made his consciousness, submerged in severe pain, find a beacon, and try to concentrate the rest of his consciousness on this inexplicably appearing progress bar. The pain seems to be diverted quite a bit. It doesn't seem to be that, as the progress bar increases, the pain is indeed weakened. When the progress bar was halfway up, the pain had gone from maddening to unbearable, but not unbearable. By the time the progress bar was full, the pain had become tolerable. At this moment, the field of vision suddenly lit up, but it was not the reality before. It was an interface that he was very familiar with. The character interface of the game he played before, Cyberpunk 2077. But there are some specious. The character image in the center of the interface is not the face he pinched, but the cow he pinched, the Legend of Night City, the famous verses. But it was also an image he was very familiar with. With shoulder-length hair, a handsome face, a black combat uniform, and a steel unicorn arm with a red 5-pointed star logo. Well-known characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes. Formerly known as James Buchanan Barnes, the heir of Captain America Steve Rogers, formed the Howling Commando with the IS team to fight against the Third Reich, and had an accident during a mission, and was then organized by Hydra. Dr. Zola got it, carried out super soldier serum transformation, and placed a mind controller in the brain, with brainwashing and hypnosis. In this way, it became Hydra's secret weapon, the most powerful killer in the shadows. That's right. Tong Bo suddenly realized that Bucky is similar to the IS team. He usually carries out special frozen storage, and he will only be unfrozen when he is on a mission. Maybe it was some kind of accident in this thawing, or maybe it was some kind of accident in the previous freezing. Bucky's consciousness disappeared, and it happened to be replaced by himself as a traverser. From today onwards, he is Bucky Barnes. Although Tong Bo also has a great love for Maiman, and he also fantasized about becoming Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, or his good friend Winter Soldier who fell in love with Captain America. But he doesn't really want to be the Winter Soldier. Especially not wanting to be the Winter Soldier who is still under the control of Hydra, a wicked organization. Being brainwashed, being a tool man, letting the Hydra float for nothing, and playing electric shock once every time it floats. He would rather be Chi Wuhai. Fortunately, his time travel, another variable, the cyberpunk system that he traveled with, gave him hope. Character. James Buchanan Barnes rating. 1 Tong Bo may wonder whether he is himself or Bucky the Winter Soldier. The system does not. The character image of the Winter Soldier, the character name of the Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier is the Winter Soldier, anyway, as long as you know who you are, you can't take care of these now. He then observed that the one with the character's avatar was the character's equipment interface. The 3 weapon bars in the upper left corner, the backpack, and prosthetic body, in the lower left, the head, face, all the way to the feet, on the right from top to bottom, and the item bar are all empty. Only the network access warehouse, in this cyberpunk world, is a microcomputer directly connected to the brain, used for remote or wired access to other electronic devices, cracking the system, and black technology equipment for invading the network. If you focus on this, it will display, new equipment is available. With the thought, click into the equipment bar, and you will find that the available equipment is called Hydra Mind Controller, transformed. Hydra Mind Controller change. Allows to crack the target or device during scanning, and needs to link to the scanning device. System fraud. Tong Bo couldn't help feeling refreshed, his illness was cured. I don't need to worry about the function of the network access warehouse for the time being. Anyway, I don't have a scanning device, that is, the electronic prosthetic eye transformation. What's important is that the mind controller installed by Hydra in his mind has been transformed into his own by the system, and its functions have all changed, so he can no longer control himself. Wouldn't it be possible to transform the steel unicorn arm? Pia. Before studying it carefully, he suddenly felt a pain on his face. The field of vision changes instantly, the system interface is retracted, and it is replaced with real things. A bearded officer stood in front of him. It turned out that the electric shock brainwashing had ended, but the Winter Soldier was stunned, as if he had been turned into an idiot by the electric shock. Then the officer called a few times, seeing that the Winter Soldier didn't respond, and came up with a slap in the face. Tong Bo frowned, but instantly remembered that he was the Winter Soldier now, so he quickly pretended to be dazed. Eager. Not good. The officer held a red leather notebook with a black 5-pointed star stamp in his hand, and the moment he read a word in Russian. Tong Bo felt that his body had an instant reaction, his muscles tensed, and a lot of unexplained, even inexplicable pictures subconsciously appeared in his mind, making him fall into a daze involuntarily. This is a hypnotic order for the Winter Soldier. Although I am not the original Bucky Barnes, my brain is his, with many fragments of his memories, and my body is also his, with his experiences and feelings. I will be involuntarily affected by my body and memory, and will be hypnotized. Fuck fuck fuck. Tong Bo secretly screamed that it was not good, and he was also very anxious. The mind controller was used to cooperate with brainwashing and wash away memories. It was also used to make Bucky's brain record the hypnotized program. The brain has already recorded it. To the mind controller, will also be hypnotized. Doing everything in his power, resisting the involuntary feeling, he entered the system in his mind again. This was his only way out, his only hope. System information. Affected by mind control, COM-3, lost control of the body. COM-3. He keenly grasped the keywords of the prompt, and immediately switched to the character attribute interface. Character attributes. Body, 7 points, your physical quality, health, stamina, weight, melee damage. Subordinate feats. Movement 7, annihilation 7, brawl 7. Reaction, 7 points, your mobility, movement speed, explosive power, control, crit and precision of ranged weapons. Subordinate feats. Pistol 7, assault 7, brawl 7. Technology, 3 points, your technical ability, mechanical engineering and production level. Subordinate specialties. Engineering 1, production 1. Intelligence, 4 points, your memory, calculation, comprehension, analysis ability, network hacking ability and related production level. Subordinate specialties, intrusion protocol 1, quick crack 1. Calm, 7 to 3 points, your willpower and tenacity, your efficiency when sneaking, and your endurance when injured. Subordinate feats, stealth 7, cold blood 1, HP, 163 170ths. Stamina, 135 135ths, available attribute points, 7. Available feat points, 7. This is different from the initial attributes in the original game. Originally, the 5 attributes were initially 3 points, representing the average level of ordinary humans, but at the beginning, only 2 attributes could be selected to add 6 points. But the Winter Soldier was transformed with Super Soldier Serum, but obviously not as effective as Captain America, not as muscular as a unicorn-armed deadlift helicopter, but his physical attributes have surpassed the limit level that ordinary people can achieve, body, and reaction. It's 7 o'clock directly. And although the Winter Soldier has been repeatedly brainwashed, his willpower should be considered destroyed, but his willpower is only weak for special hypnosis procedures. At other times, he is the most ruthless soldier who will never waver. And there is also a time traveler possessed, probably because of the fusion of souls, and the spiritual power will increase accordingly. So he also has 7 points for the calm attribute representing willpower. It's just that the special hypnosis program will target his willpower and cause an irresistible backdoor attack, which is completely irresistible and directly calms down by -3. Then add it and you're done. With a thought, add 3 free attribute points to calm. Rusty, 17. And at this time, the second and third words came out of the officer's mouth. However, Tong Bo felt that a strong willpower emerged in his heart, forcing himself to resist the bad reaction. His mind gradually cleared up, his body stopped trembling, and he gradually calmed down. Dawn, stove, 9. However, as his vocabulary increased, his body was about to move again. Still in shock, he directly added 1 point, calm. But this time, the effect was immediate. Just like the last feather affecting both ends of the scale, it directly affects the final result. After adding this bit of calm, he felt his mind and body completely calmed down. The negative effect of being hypnotized in the system will disappear immediately. The calmness attribute is no longer -3, and it directly restores to 11 points. Character: James Buchanan Barnes. Flesh, 7 responses, 7. Technology: 3 intelligence, 4 calm, 11 available attribute points, 3. Available feat points, 7. Escaped a catastrophe, 1. Van. Good morning, soldier. But before he had time to think about it, the officer's greeting rang in his ears. He hurriedly recalled the previous state of being in a state of confusion, and replied in a daze. At your command. There is a task for you: execute and extract, and leave no one alive. Opening the folder handed over by the officer, he couldn't help shrinking his pupils when he saw the contents on it. It turned out to be this. The mind control command has no effect on the mind at all, but some subconscious reactions will emerge from the body, basically no problem. In the motel room, Tong Bo had already checked. But still looking in the mirror, this strange yet familiar face, silent for a long time, facing the mirror, muttering to himself. Although I am still me, in this world, I am you, Winter Soldier, Bucky, wish me luck. In this world, only I know that I am Tong Bo, and others will know a completely different Winter Soldier, a completely different Bucky Barnes. So, I am the Winter Soldier. The matter has come to this point, whether he is willing or not, he has to admit the fact that he crossed over and became the Winter Soldier, and he must also inherit Bucky Barnes' identity and past. The entanglement he had traveled through so far was finally completely suppressed in his heart, and he let himself accept the new identity as soon as possible. The one who went into the bathroom was the time traveler Tong Bo, controlling the Winter Soldier's body. Walking out of the bathroom is to press the past time travel to the bottom of my heart, and become a secret that only I know, and completely assume the role, Bucky the Winter Soldier. He walked to the single bed and sat down, and picked up the folder beside him. After opening it, looking at the photo clipped on the file, a white-haired, handsome white old man, he fell into deep thought again. In the secret base of Hydra in Siberia, the first time he saw Howard Stark's photo, he immediately thought he was a good guy, so he couldn't hold back his blank expression. The time I traveled through turned out to be the past of Captain America 3, Civil War. That is to say, at the beginning, the Winter Soldier Bucky was thawed out, and then went to perform the task of assassinating Howard Stark and taking away the super soldier serum he was carrying. Howard Stark, the father of Iron Man Tony Stark, Marvel's hottest superhero, is also a super rich man, a super genius, and a great inventor. He once led the plan to create Captain America. The core of Iron Man, arc energy, its concept and prototype came from Howard. He is also a patriot, fighting against the evil Third Reich with the S Team and Peggy Carter, and the evil organization of the Third Reich, the Hydra headed by the famous Red Skull. After World War E, he also became one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D., and carried out many secret missions with Peggy Carter. And until now in 1991, Howard is still active. This time, he is going to secretly transport the super serum that makes the S Team and the Winter Soldier to a place. However, at this time, because of the Paperclip project, after the end of World War E, S.H.I.E.L.D. recruited a large number of scientists, researchers, and technicians. There are a large number of Hydra agents, and Hydra has already parasitized in S.H.I.E.L.D. secretly grow. Howard's whereabouts were thus exposed. Then there was this assassination and capture plan. But assassination is impossible. Whether it is the original Winter Soldier or himself, he has no hatred against Howard. Instead, they all have a grudge against Hydra. Just after transmigrating, he suffered such a serious crime, this feud has become serious. Also have to kill Hydra. But it is also impossible for him to explode directly and kill all the Hydra troops in front of him. Not to mention that he is still the soul of a worker in modern society, killing people or something is temporarily unacceptable. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't. He hasn't even gone through the past memories of Bucky Barnes, let alone his combat experience, combat literacy, or even his body's muscle memory. That all takes some time to master. And even if he dares to kill and can kill, he will really kill, then what? This is Siberia, except for Hydra, no one knows the exact location. If he didn't have time to grab the helicopter, even if he had a car, he wouldn't dare to drive away, for fear of getting lost in the snowy field. So he had no choice but to pretend that he was still a serious Winter Soldier, and obeyed his orders, got the equipment, fake identities, funds, etc. prepared by Hydra, boarded the helicopter, and went to a secret airport, traveled across the ocean, and secretly came to the beautiful country of New Jersey. The Winter Soldier is a toolman. Since there is a person, he has the ability to act independently. What is wiped out of the Winter Soldier is only his memory and free consciousness, and his intelligence is still there. Hydra also has complete trust in their flawless creations. So here, the Winter Soldier has become a single soldier action mode. This gave him the opportunity to change his usual mode of action. Instead of directly carrying out the task, he came to this unremarkable old motel first. It is impossible for me to become the original fierce killing god. In less than 72 hours, there is no time to integrate the memory and get used to the body. Fortunately, I don't need it for the time being. Closing the task folder, the Winter Soldier fell into deep thought again. If you don't perform Hydra's mission and don't kill Howard, it doesn't mean you don't see Howard. The hatred of suffering after crossing, coupled with Bucky's memory, now he, no matter what, will not let Hydra go. But Hydra is a global secret organization. It is also parasitic on S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know how many members they recruited. Neither the original Winter Soldier nor the current him can act rashly. You can't get into this trouble by yourself. And Howard Stark, one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D., a big money, big inventor, decent person, and once familiar with Bucky Barnes, is obviously the best contact person for the Winter Soldier. But you can't just go there directly. Howard is easy to see, but Hydra is hard to guard against. If you see Howard, then not only will you not kill him, but you will shake off Hydra's old background to him. With such a fraudulent move, it is conceivable that Hydra must blow up. So, still have some preparations. Although in a short period of time, I can't reach the original combat power of the Winter Soldier, and may not even be as good as an elite special soldier or agent, but it doesn't matter. Except for the Winter Soldier, I am still a wall. After traveling to this world, his biggest reliance is not the body of the Winter Soldier, on the contrary, this body is what he doesn't want. His only reliance is the cyberpunk system. Mumbling to himself, he stood up, lifted an oversized black travel bag on the ground with his metal arms, and opened the zipper. Inside were not guns and ammunition, but a large pile of calculators, staplers, remote controls, electronic watches and other messy household and office supplies he got from the warehouse of a supermarket passing by. Following him, he snapped off the wire of the desk lamp, and held the end of the wire that was still energized with a steel unicorn arm. Bursts of numbness flowed all over his body along the unicorn's arms, making him shiver a few times. But no pain. It wasn't because of the electric shock brainwashing experience that he awakened some strange hobby. Rather, the system that was turned on during the electric shock brainwashing could allow his body to absorb external energy. It's not unlimited, and it can't be absorbed at any intensity, just like the 110 VAC here. He only feels numbness and slight tingling, which proves that most of it has been absorbed, and it also proves that this is the limit of his absorption. And he absorbs energy because of the messy things in front of him. I saw that the steel unicorn arm in his left hand was electrified, and he picked up a function calculator in his right hand. Followed by the calculator, a burst of red and blue neon spots flashed, and in less than a second, the calculator crashed into a pile of broken parts. It's like an old thing that has been used for a long time, smashed to pieces with a hammer, and then kicked away. What is left? System information. Disassemble a calculator, scrap. Get one common item component, and one sophisticated quick crack component. As for the system in his mind, open the inventory and select Show All Items. In the originally empty item bar, there is an icon of a white framed, disassembled messy component, showing Common Item Component. And a green box, which looks like a PCB circuit board component of a memory stick, shows Quick Crack Components. Obviously, none of this can be dismantled by a calculator. But time travel is still cyberpunk, a little punk is also very reasonable. Just like in the original game, this system also has two functions, create, and disassemble, which can disassemble almost any item to get common components. But cyberpunk, a little outrageous, is also acceptable. It is just an item to be disassembled. The more mechanical structures, the better the material, the higher the probability of dismantling the components, and the better the quality. And this system, dismantling electronic products, in addition to dismantling ordinary components, it is also possible to dismantle quick cracking components, which is the production material of plugins related to cyber hackers. It is also required for some electronic prosthesis making. After all, in this Marvel world, there are no prosthetic doctors and weapons dealers. Fortunately, the system comes with it, so you can D it directly. The two components, as well as the manufactured equipment, are divided into white common, green excellent, blue rare, purple epic and orange legendary. And this technology lags far behind Cyberpunk 2077, Marvel 1991. Electronic products in the 90s can only be disassembled with a relatively small probability of the lowest level, green excellent fast cracking components, and the probability of dismantling the blue rare quick crack component. That's why Bucky mopped up so many things, dismantling components, crafting gear, and arming himself. Not only the travel bag, but with steel unicorn arms, he carried a full 5 bags, not only daily electronic products, but also hardware and mechanical tools, nail guns, electric drills and so on. It takes less than 1 second to disassemble an item. Although there are many things, it takes less than 10 minutes for Bucky to disassemble them all. As a result, he also gained 600 experience points of the production specialty associated with the technology attribute branch. And normal item components, 97, excellent item components, 56, excellent quick crack components, 43, rare quick crack components, 7. Luck is not bad, it should be enough. After counting, it is quite satisfactory, not European, but the rare blue electronic components that come out with a very small probability, 100 out of more than 7 electronic equipment can be disassembled, it is really not black. System. Free attribute points plus 1 technology point. System information. Character attributes have changed. Technology 4. After dismantling, Bucky first added 1 point of technology and 4 points of intelligence, because the items that the Winter Soldier wants to make not only need materials, but also require points of technical ability. System. Make Kilusi prosthetic eye type I. System information. Consume 30 common item components, 25 excellent item components, 15 excellent quick crack components, 5 rare quick crack components to make Kilusi optical prosthetic eye type I. Installed to the left eye. With a thought, Bucky chose to install it. He didn't feel any pain, but he still felt a little strange. There was a strange feeling that the clear left eye was gradually being changed little by little. Not long after the optical prosthetic eye was installed, he felt his vision blurred for a while, and the optic nerves of both eyes were connected. After the adjustment, the entire field of vision has changed. The field of vision became very clear, and the whole world became extremely vivid. And in the upper right corner of the field of vision, there is a virtual image, showing life bar, marked 170, endurance bar, 135, RAM quantity, 6. The lower left corner is the item quick use column. In the lower right corner is the weapon status column, showing the virtual image of the steel unicorn arm. The map in the upper right corner is also empty, because no database information has been entered yet. This is the optical prosthetic eye, loaded with intelligent algorithms, and connected to the network access warehouse, providing a lot of auxiliary support for vision. It's like the HUD interface of Iron Man's mask, and it also has an intelligent learning mode, which can remember the user's usage habits and provide users with more accurate information faster. With it, Bucky can highlight the target in the field of vision, and automatically track it until it completely disappears from the field of vision. It can also directly conduct hacking operations in the network access warehouse through the line of sight. The hacking behavior of the network access warehouse is equivalent to magic, and its memory RAM is equivalent to magic value. The electromagnetic short circuit that can cause the target to receive an electric shock, the joint infection that can make the target feel sick, etc., can be hacked as long as the prosthetic eye is locked, which is the famous Cyberpunk 2077 game. Whoever stares at someone dies. And Bucky has the blessing of the system here. It doesn't have to have a network access warehouse for the target to hack in, but as long as it is a living body, it can be hacked directly. He has been thinking about a problem. Although the Winter Soldier is strong, he is compared with ordinary people, but after all, he is just a big-breasted beauty team with steel unicorn arms but weakened body strength. And even with the system, the upgraded attribute points all add the body and reaction attributes to strengthen the body, and you have to reach level 27 to be able to double 20 in body and reaction. But that's just Spider-Man. Whether it is facing ordinary people or facing powerful supervillains, fairy monsters flying all over the sky, Winter Soldier and Spider-Man, it seems that there is not much difference. It's true that my goal is to kill Hydra, but this is the Marvel world after all. There are not only ordinary villains on the Earth like Hydra, but also the black technology of Wakanda, the magic of the Priory, and perhaps there are mutants. There are even the alien gods of Asgard, Carrie, Skrull, Nova Empire and other alien high-tech races. There is also the ultimate boss that cannot be bypassed, the director of the Universal Family Planning Office, the mad titan Thanos, who is dedicated to killing half and saving half, and destroying half of the life in the universe. Now, I have become the Winter Soldier, but I am not interested in being like the original drama, and I was also ashesed by Mr. Mie, hoping that others can save me. So compared to the physical body, the Winter Soldier feels that magic is more reliable. At least, magic saved himself from the very beginning, and directly wiped out the mind controller in his brain. The magic, blessed by the system, also seems to be powerful enough. So Bucky decided that in the future, he would mainly choose the strengthening route of cyber hacker and production master. Ideal is full, the reality is very skinny. This is true even for the Winter Soldier, who starts off with cheats. He was thinking, once he opened and hung up, his skills would become great in an instant, and he would stare at everyone to death, and the enemy would not know where he was when he died. But that is the full level number, which can only be obtained when wearing a legendary orange outfit. But now, he only has a whiteboard network access warehouse, a whiteboard prosthetic eye, and doesn't even have a quick crack plugin. Because of the fast cracking plugins of the green elite level, the components of the purple epic level are required. It's so outrageous that Bucky wants to use the 30 languages he has mastered after becoming the Winter Soldier to take turns cursing. So there is no need to think about staring at someone for the time being. But even so, the network access warehouse and prosthetic eyes are still very useful. Because in addition to the quick cracking of special effects, equivalent to electric shock, paralysis, burning, and corrosion of those, magic, the most basic highlighting of targets, and remote access to electronic equipment, such as the Winter Soldier can stare at the phone, directly black going in. Of course you can't eavesdrop, that requires the cooperation of prosthetic ears. But you can hang up the phone directly. It can remotely switch on and off all electronic products such as lights, telephones, and TVs. If it is a car with electronic ignition, it can also be turned off. And if it is a camera, in addition to turning it off, it can also take over remotely, directly connect the camera signal to the prosthetic eye, and then convert it into a visual nerve signal for the Winter Soldier to see directly. These functions are very useful. Suddenly, the lights on the ceiling seem to be haunted, and they turn on and off when no one switches them on. This is Bucky getting familiar with the visual changes and functions of the prosthetic eye, and at the same time borrowing the metal left arm to the electrified wirehead. System, transform my left arm into a prosthesis. System information. An unknown model of the left arm prosthesis has been detected, which can be converted into a green advanced system prosthesis, which requires 15 common item components and 10 excellent item components, and is being converted. The mind controller that was transformed at the beginning was probably the initial novice gift pack of the system or something, which made the Winter Soldier free for nothing. And then next time, it's really a must this time. This conversion requires item components. However, compared with direct production, a certain discount will be made according to the quality of the original prosthesis. The steel unicorn arm of the Winter Soldier is directly discounted by %, and only needs half of the materials. And although this unicorn arm itself is quite strong, the Winter Soldier himself knows that his body is to bear this prosthesis, not to accept and integrate it. At the junction of his left chest, the flesh has a slight rejection reaction. And God knows if Hydra has added something special to it, GPS locator, remote control paralysis or something. It is safest to directly transform into a prosthetic body recognized by the system, and it can also be fully accepted by the body and more freely controlled. System information. The transformation is complete, and the prosthetic steel arm, gorilla arm, is obtained. Iron arm. Increase power output, which is equivalent to the effect of 15 points of physical body. That is to say, Bucky's physical attribute is 7 points, and the steel unicorn arm is more than doubled in strength. After the system transformation, compared with the original one, there is still a certain increase. There was also a burst of red and blue neon color blocks flashing, but the appearance of the transformed unicorn arm remained unchanged. But except for the metal shell, the inner structure is completely different. Bucky, a technical novice who relies on system additions, doesn't understand much, but he can feel the most intuitive feeling that the slight discomfort in his left chest has completely disappeared. The left arm is no longer controlled by nerve signals, but connected by nerve signals. Bucky feels like his left arm has grown back. It is no longer like an arm instructing, but it feels like this is my own arm. After the modification, there is also a data cable inside the left arm that directly communicates with the network access warehouse of the brain, so that Bucky can not only access the device remotely, but also connect directly. Interface. There are also some components. Bucky transformed the bulletproof combat uniform on his body into whiteboard equipment to make the armor higher, and then made some Furkong treatment syringes. Subconsciously, he still puts his life first. So far all components are basically used up. Also completely move in ready. This is the first step I really want to take in this world. Bucky took a deep breath, suppressed his anxiety and agitation, tried his best to experience the memory of the Winter Soldier, and integrated into the role of the Winter Soldier. His eyes gradually became indifferent. Put on the mask and goggles, carry the AK-74mm assault rifle on your back, and lift the last 2 black travel bags. The lights are off, and there is no sound in the darkness. The door opens. The silent killer, the Winter Soldier of the night, here he comes. The dim light of street lamps hits the road in the suburbs. In the cold winter season, the whistling wind, rustling needles and dead branches make this uninhabited road even more eerie and quiet. At this moment, the sound of a car engine came from a distance, and after a short while, a light-colored Ford sedan came driving with its headlights on. There were 2 white men, a man and a woman, in the car. The man driving the car had white beard and hair, and an old face, but he was full of energy and had deep eyes. The traces of time on the woman's face are much less, and the maintenance is very good. She looks less than 50 years old, and her charm is still there. The 2 of them were either rich or noble at first glance, with extraordinary temperaments, but at this moment, their faces were heavy, as if they had something on their minds. Howard, I always feel restless. Still worried about Tony. Our son, although he is incompetent, is not stupid, at least he won't suffer, or rather, I hope he will suffer a little and get some education. You guys just don't want to speak out what's on your mind. The father and son look alike, but that's not what I'm worried about. What are you worried about? It won't be us this time. Huh. The old man Howard was still frowning slightly, but the corner of his mouth was still curled up. He wanted to say something to comfort his wife, but at this moment, he heard a strong engine roar. As a great inventor and one of the best mechanical engineers in the world, he has dealt with engines all his life, and he can tell with one ear that this is not only a modified high-power engine, but also what the original model is and what modifications have been made. He guessed it all. However, his analysis was good, but when he was analyzing, the carrier of the engine, a heavy motorcycle, carrying a figure with no helmet and long hair flying, had already rushed to the side of his car. Howard, who was old and frail, saw it, but his body had no time to react. He could only watch helplessly. The figure pulled out a pistol from his thigh. Boom. Puff puff. 2 slight gunshots, accompanied by 2 flat tires. The 2 people in the car instantly felt the car tilted. When Howard was young, he was also a good drag racer, but he was old and weak, and he couldn't control the steering wheel at all, so he could only step on the brakes to stop the car. Howard. Maria, watch out. Gun. Get me the gun. The car braked suddenly, leaving a string of sparks on the ground, and stopped quickly. Howard didn't panic. He looked at his wife and waved for a gun. Maria also forced herself to be calm, and quickly opened the storage compartment in front of her, but she was a little trembling, and accidentally dropped the delicate pistol on the ground. When she picked up the pistol and handed it to her husband, the assailant on the motorcycle had stopped and chased after him, standing outside the car door on Howard's side. But because the opponent is tall, he can only see his black combat uniform and a strange metal left arm, but cannot see his face. Bang. Squeak. The 2 people in the car didn't wait for shooting or smashing the windows. Instead, they were stunned. The man used his metal left arm to insert directly into the car door, and then tore off the entire car door. As if tearing paper is so easy, it's outrageous. Howard finally got the gun, raised the gun to aim at the enemy who was no longer blocked by the car door, but had no time to ask, "Who are you?" He felt a flash in front of his eyes, and a huge force came from his hand, and the pistol was snatched away by the opponent in one click. This made him feel a chill in his heart. Don't want. However, when Howard tried his best to turn around, trying to stand in front of his wife and protect her as much as possible, he discovered that the other party had inserted a pistol directly into his back. "Don't be nervous. I am not hostile, on the contrary, I am here to save you." Following Howard, he saw the man bowed his head, saw his shoulder-length hair, and his face with goggles and a mask, and heard the other party say so. Although this deep voice was very magnetic and non-hostile, it even made Howard feel a little inexplicably familiar. But he still had never felt so absurd. "Save? You blew our tires and tore open our doors, you said it was to save us? Robbery is robbery, be dedicated, respect your profession, okay? Of course, someone really wants to kill you." Maybe the other party understood the look in his eyes. Howard heard this person who was becoming more and more inexplicably familiar to him say this again, which also made him subconsciously ask again. Who? Who wants to kill us? I'm afraid this person is sick. Until now, Howard, who was still trying his best to maintain his composure, suddenly felt an indescribable impulse in his heart. When he met a lunatic, he probably had nothing to say, so he might as well give him a final blow. Fist, at least let out a bad breath, right? However, at this moment, Howard's eyes suddenly widened with shock on his face. Because he saw the other party take off the goggles and mask, revealing his original face. It was a face he knew so well. And that voice, it's him. You are Sergeant Barnes. Yes, it's me. I'm glad you can still recognize me, old man. Oh, and this beautiful lady. Hello. First meeting. My name is, oh, Mr. Stark has already said it. How is this possible? In an instant, countless questions flooded Howard's mind, which made his genius brain unable to process all the information so quickly, so he couldn't help but stare blankly at the face that hardly changed, which was still in his memory. I know I'm handsome, but now is not the time to admire my beauty and prosperity, nor is it a good place to reminisce about the old days. Get out of the car first. But you didn't die. Who did you meet to save you? Is this arm the technology of Mao Shang? As expected of Tony Stark's father, he has a genius brain that has been passed down in the same vein. He was just a little dazed, and he made up a relatively reasonable general plot in his brain, and he couldn't help but ask quickly. There's no time to explain. Get out of the car. There are still a lot of things to do. Do you really want to listen to my story here? Do you have any wine? I don't think Bucky is so lively. Although it was decades ago, Howard's genius mind still remembers clearly that he was a very cool and handsome young man. But what the other party said was indeed the truth, and after the other party finished speaking, he walked away. Howard could only comfort his wife who was still in shock, and then got out of the car. Howard, as this person. Maria didn't have a genius mind, she was just a virtuous and considerate wife, but her temperament was free and tough, and she could barely hold it at this time. He's Bucky Barnes, a former comrade of Captain America's. How can that be? I have some guesses. The sudden appearance of Bucky Barnes surprised Howard, but considering the purpose of his trip, he still frowned. He felt that this matter was very serious, and it might even exceed his expectations. Imagine. Don't be dazed. Time is running out. Take off your clothes quickly. What? But at this moment, the two saw that Bucky untied two large bags from the back of his heavy motorcycle, lifted them with one hand, and asked them to take off their clothes. What do you want? In no mood, what? The conversation between Howard and Bucky was interrupted by Maria's scream, but she saw that there were two naked dead people in those two bags. Do you want them to pretend to be us? Howard is still calm, and he has seen many dead people. Of course, then. We're pretending to be dead, isn't it realistic? Howard took the two sets of sportswear thrown by Bucky and continued to ask. He wanted to get more information as soon as possible. It's just delaying time, it's a moment to hide it for a while. Hearing this, Howard didn't ask any more questions, and took Maria to change clothes behind the big tree beside the road. You really came here for this? But it's also here to save you. Both Howard and Maria quickly changed their clothes, but that's when Bucky was dressing the bodies of two anonymous people who had been stolen from the morgue while Howard went to the trunk of the car. But he heard Bucky say, "Don't move, let me go. Also, you guys hide outside the road." The two could only listen to each other, hide in the dark, and watch Bucky put the two bodies into the car, then draw a gun, shoot. Then go to the trunk to get something, pour gasoline, and ignite with one shot. The raging fire engulfed the car, and the fire reflected Howard's somewhat puzzled expression. So proficient. Who are you showing this to? Boom. But just as Howard was about to ask, he saw Bucky get back on the motorcycle, twist the accelerator, and run away in a hurry. Ran away. Ran. Listening to the sound of the motorcycle engine fading away and gradually disappearing, Howard was directly disturbed by the wind. Hey, what's wrong with this? Of course, Howard Stark wasn't messy for long. Not long after, the sound of a car engine came from a distance. Boarding. The black Ford Mustang is driven by Bucky, who has gone and returned. Howard took his wife to get into the car. You come and go. But Bucky moved to the passenger seat, picked up the metal suitcase from the trunk of his car under his feet, and held it in his arms. Howard made another detour, sat in the driver's seat, and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The other party said that he had no intention of coercing him, and he also understood that he just wanted him, a local snake, to find a safe place. When the car started, Bucky fell silent again, as if he was thinking about something. Howard couldn't help asking directly, full of questions. Did you act for that camera just now? How did you? Howard also noticed later that there was a camera not far away, so it was even more strange. If you were acting, you couldn't even take pictures of your own filming process, right? I have my own way. Of course, from the very beginning, Bucky used the prosthetic eye to cooperate with the network access cabin to directly control the camera, control its recording process, and modify the recording time. That camera recorded only Bucky showing up, blowing the tire, opening the car door, shooting, taking things, burning the car, and walking away. For this reason, Bucky also used up the last 2 free attribute points, increasing the intelligence attribute to 6 points. Only in this way can we improve our network hacking ability, so as to invade and tamper with the video recording program of the camera, not just a simple switch and monitoring. But it's okay. Bucky himself wants to take the route of hacking and engineering, and he mainly adds intelligence and technology and system information. The series of missions, Betrayal, the Mission 1, Rescue, is completed, and 500 experience points are obtained. Character: James Buchanan Barnes. Grade 1 experience value 501 thousandths. Flesh 7, Movement 7, Annihilation 7, Brawl 7, Reaction 7, Pistol 7, Assault 7, Sword 7. Technology 4, Engineering 1, Crafting 2, Intelligence 6, Intrusion Protocol 1, Quick Crack 1. Comm 11, Stealth 7, Cold Blood 1. Intellect is raised to 6 points, and the production expertise of the technical branch is also raised to level 2 because of the dismantling and production of items before. The act of remotely taking over the camera and tampering with the video can increase the experience of the intrusion protocol of the intelligence branch, this time adding 75 points. Also, because of contacting Howard, the mission was officially triggered, and after saving him, the mission was completed and 500 experience points were obtained. That's exactly what Bucky was obsessed with. However, even so, this can only be concealed for a while. I am the biggest problem. If I don't reply to the task, there will be action there immediately. Therefore, time is tight, you can drive faster. After checking his attribute panel, Bucky also came back to his senses and said this to Howard. Sergeant Barnes, who the hell sent you? Although Howard is more curious about what Bucky Barnes has experienced, who is responsible for this incident is the most critical question. Sergeant Barnes, what a nostalgic title. Bucky pretended to sigh, and then said. Since you remember this old title, you naturally remember our old friend. Hiss. You mean, Hydra. How is that possible? Hydra has already followed the captain to destroy the Red Skull, and was defeated by the Allied forces. Drive well. It's not that Howard didn't vaguely guess this possibility, but because of this, after Bucky said it, he was even more shocked, so frightened that his hand holding the steering wheel couldn't help shaking. This undoubtedly represents the worst possibility. Don't forget, cut off one head and grow 2. The offal of Hydra are like cockroaches and mice in the sewer. Who knows how many there are? Bucky did not mention the biggest failure of the Allied forces after World War E, the Paperclip project, that absorbed scientists and technicians from the Third Reich. But Howard didn't need to be convinced either. Bucky's appearance, the leak of his whereabouts, and the experience tonight made him believe it. He just hadn't recovered from the shock. And you, Sergeant Barnes, what have you been through? That's a long story, but now I have time to explain. Bucky will roughly talk about his original experience. From World War E, an accident attacking a train, falling into an ice and snow canyon, survived the catastrophe, but lost his left arm, and what's worse, was killed by the Hydra army. Got it, and was taken to Maoshonglian to conduct all kinds of inhumane research. It has been made into a top-secret weapon, and it has to suffer from Hydra's freezing plus electric shock play again and again, and the inhuman white drift. However, there was a small problem during the recent electric shock brainwashing. Of course it can't be said that someone has time traveled, but he just said that he didn't know what happened. He woke up, and he still had some limited memories, so he resolutely turned his back on him, from killing people to saving people. I found out that the target of the mission turned out to be you, so I didn't turn against them directly. Instead, I directed and acted the play myself. I think you should know this, and we have common enemies, and we can help each other. Yes, I really need to know this information. It is too important. Although I have always vaguely felt that something is wrong, I have not found any clues, so I gradually ignored it subconsciously. Hydra is hiding too deeply. Howard admitted that he didn't know that Hydra still existed, and that it had grown stronger again, and even his whereabouts could be grasped, which was terrifying. And as for Bucky saving his life, he admits it, but if you want to talk about helping each other and benefiting each other. Howard just looked at Bucky, then at the metal box in his arms. It's not that he doesn't trust Bucky. Well, it's just that he doesn't trust him. After all, he made such a mess when he first came up, and he hasn't seen him for decades. If you say you're awake, who can prove it? What if he is still playing him? And the thing in the box, the super soldier serum, was too important, and Bucky seemed to value it very much, so Howard couldn't help being careful. And Bucky directly opened the metal box, picked up a bag of super soldier serum inside, and silently called the system in his heart. System, scan and disassemble the super soldier serum. At this moment, Howard's eyes widened again in an instant. He actually saw that the iris of Bucky's left eye glowed with a beautiful and mysterious blue light, and on the serum bag, red and blue neon blocks flickered constantly. Not long after, that bag of super soldier serum turned into a tattered infusion bag. System prompt. Scan and disassemble a bag of super soldier serum to get 15 ordinary item components, 10 excellent item components, and 3 rare item components, and get a copy of the formula, Super Warrior Serum. Super Warrior Serum. Strengthen the body, permanently increase the body and reaction attributes by 1. It can be used once for every 6 points of physical attributes, and it is valid for attributes below 20 points. Production requirements. Crafting specialty talent, ingenuity, 30 common components, 20 excellent components, 15 rare components. Bucky nodded in satisfaction. This cyber system is really punk enough. It is completely unreasonable to open and hang. Even serum can be disassembled into components, and it can also scan and generate formulas that the system can make. The super soldier serum is also very good, although the effect is not as good as that used by the American team, the Red Skull, or even the one used by his own body. But it does not have the characteristics of amplifying the spiritual character of the US team in the Red Skull, making the good better and the evil more evil. There is no side effect at all, and my 7-point physical body can be used just once, giving the 5 bags in my hand. If all the serum is disassembled, it is just enough to make a bag. However, if the serum is removed, the energy stored in him will be exhausted, and he has to touch the switch again. Bucky is a little distracted here. Howard couldn't help shouting, what's going on with you? When he came back to his senses, Bucky started to fool around. I don't know, maybe some Hydra experiment. You know they have studied all kinds of weird things. Or maybe, just like when I woke up, some unknown changes occurred. You know, I have been brainwashed so much this time, the memory is fragmented, too much is forgotten, and there are too many indistinguishable memory fragments. It is not easy to remember who you are. He is not going to hide his ability. As long as he keeps using it, sooner or later people will know about it. Why not be more generous, make up a reason, talk too much? After a long time, others will naturally take it seriously. And here at Howard, Bucky showed it to him on purpose. It's amazing. What effect does this ability have? Howard is not shocked. He knows more secrets of the world than ordinary people who know nothing. Captain America is not the only extraordinary existence. He knows that there are many unknown mysterious powers in this world. In an instant, he let the scientist's research desire occupy the high IQ, and he looked like he wanted to study it. It made Bucky feel that there was not much difference between this guy and Hydra's mad scientist. It's not very clear. You can disassemble things, and you can also make things. What can you make? Howard asked curiously. What's the point of dismantling the serum and making it? Bucky showed it directly to him, and the red and blue neon blocks flickered in his hand. Then made a remote control out. It was exactly what I got when I first tried to use the ability, but it was not equipment, but sundries. Is this some magical remote control? Can it control the vehicle? Howard had a big brain hole. Bucky nodded and said, look at how amazing the process of making it is. You can guess it. It is just an ordinary air conditioner remote control, made by Philips. Then you nod your ass. Howard has a dark face. You might as well disassemble the serum to make a serum. You disassemble the serum and make an air conditioner remote control. Is your ability used to enliven the atmosphere at the party? Creating something out of nothing, isn't it magical enough? Well, in terms of practicality, it doesn't seem to be as magical as the light and shadow effect, but maybe I haven't researched the real usage yet. Anyway, now I will change into a remote control. Even if he showed his abilities to Howard, Bucky didn't plan to say anything. He wanted to lower the opponent's defense and arouse the opponent's interest, little by little. What I mean is, since these serums are being targeted by Hydra, it is better to destroy them completely. Bucky took apart all 5 bags of serum, saying that he had no other ideas, and he was also showing sincerity. I'm showing you my biggest secret. I originally cracked the formula of the serum and copied these serums, and I regretted it a bit. I just wanted to find a secret place and seal it up. That's fine. Whatever Bucky did with the serum, let's say he used it himself. Howard knew that Bucky himself had used the super soldier serum, and such a statement was enough for him to temporarily accept it. So, help each other. Bucky turned sideways, stared at Howard, and held out his right hand. Okay, help each other. Howard looked at Bucky, and stretched out his right hand as well, holding both hands together. Both of them couldn't help smiling, as if they had returned to those glorious years. So, where are we going? Not far in front, a rural villa of my family. As Howard said, he turned from the road to the branched dirt road. Not long after, the car stopped next to a wooden villa. Looking at the villa next to the lake, Bucky had an inexplicable sense of déjà vu, and suddenly realized that this is the villa where his nephew Tony will live in from now on, right? Here, others can easily find your property, right? Tell me, you have an underground secret base here, and you have enough weapons? Howard was helping Maria to get out of the car. His gentle and virtuous wife was frightened and somewhat depressed along the way. He heard Bucky's question and answered as he walked. Just to let them know where we are. As for the underground base, come with me. Really? Seeing Howard's crooked smile, Bucky immediately regained his energy and hurriedly followed. The inventor Howard Stark's arsenal, and perhaps his outlandish inventions, are well worth taking apart. Where's the armory? Where is it? Because Howard Stark didn't take Bucky to some underground secret base immediately. Instead, he made a phone call first, and after a while, a helicopter was called, and then a handsome old man who looked like a British housekeeper was asked to pick up his wife Maria. Bucky was a little impatient. Follow me. Diane followed Howard to the basement of the villa. Look. How is it? How about it? Where is the secret door mechanism? Bucky looked around. This is a room similar to a collection room, displaying some calligraphy and paintings, bottles and cans and other collections. Of course, there is a display cabinet on one wall, and there are shotguns. But it shouldn't be a camouflage or something, and then Howard should go to the bookcase and pull out a book, or press the button under the desk, and then open a secret door, which is a very technological secret room, and then there are a lot of high tech. Is it a thing? Secret door mechanism. No, there are these shotguns here, but they are all carefully maintained, and they will definitely work. Bucky looked at Howard speechlessly. Old Huo, you don't play your cards according to the routine. But the old man smiled crookedly, probably with an expression like, little boy, you fooled me so many times, almost broke my old waist, of course I will find a chance to get revenge. I do have a basement here, and they are all top secret items that I have sealed up, but there is nothing you can use. I was going to come here to seal up the serum, but I don't need it now. As for weapons, there are indeed only these. The Stark Group is the maker of guns, but I wouldn't put all the products in my own home, would I? We have a facility called a warehouse. Ha ha. Facing Howard, he probably held back all the way, which can be regarded as an old trough, so Bucky turned around and left. He knew that compared to his future nephew Tony, Howard was more inclined to the research and development of weapons. He had researched many weapons with great lethality, some of which were even just ideas, and even he himself was afraid, so in order not to let anyone using it, he always sealed up this dangerous item. It was just a fantasy before. Howard might think that the situation is critical, and just take out some emergency, but he doesn't want to, and Bucky doesn't force it. Don't you look at it anymore? This gun is a collectible product. You are still chasing after him, right? Bucky rolled his eyes, turned around, went over and broke the lock of the display cabinet, stole all 5 shotguns inside, and left with his armpit. Hey, you don't want that, do you? This gun is very expensive, Remington 1882 Royal Custom Edition. Indeed, these 5 shotguns are extremely valuable to collect. If they were replaced by Kalashnikov, they could fill up the space in the villa, but Howard guessed what Bucky was going to do, so he didn't chase after them. What a magical ability, what is the principle? Seeing Bucky touching the wire with one hand and dismantling his precious shotgun with the other, Howard didn't feel distressed at all, but instead kept annotating Bucky's dismantling process, amazed. God knows. When the storm passes temporarily, you must let me check it. Looking at your eyes, I think what you want to talk about is not an inspection, but an anatomy. How could I be willing to go so soon? Cough, I mean, how could I have such an idea? You were overthinking. Let's get down to business. You're a genius, do you have any ideas? Bucky changed the subject and looked at Howard seriously. Howard also became serious, but shook his head and said in a deep voice. The information I know is still too little. There's only so much I can tell you. Bucky reached out and nodded his head, shrugging helplessly. In this case, it's better to simply know nothing. Doesn't seem to be ironic? Bucky rolled his eyes, and a thought flashed through. You mean, I simply lost my memory? That's right, you just don't remember everything, so you didn't want to kill me, and I escaped. It's not that I'm making excuses for amnesia, but a local person took the initiative to make me pretend to be amnesia after time travel. Bucky feels a little weird. The current situation is even more serious than we knew Hydra is our enemy before. We can't act rashly, it will only make things out of hand. Why not continue what you have been doing, and do it even better simply? Can you hide it? As you said, it's only a matter of time before you hide it. What we need most now is time. With the buffer time, we can take the initiative, and then. As Howard spoke, he seemed to have gradually cleared his mind. But at this moment, Bucky stood up quietly. Howard felt as if his eyes were dazzled, and Bucky appeared by the window, looking sideways at the darkness outside. Anything. Howard didn't know why. Well, you have a new guest. Don't you have a secret room? Can you hide people? If you can't, find a room, lock the door, and pull the switch by the way. Okay, be careful yourself. Howard did not try his best. Although he dared to take risks and flew a plane to break through the enemy's air defense blockade when he was young, he knew very well that he was not a soldier. Since there were enemies, he should leave it to a professional like Sergeant Barnes. Oh, by the way, he now has a nickname, called the Winter Soldier. Howard didn't hesitate, turned around and left. After a while, he returned to the collection room. It really made Bucky guess right. Howard pulled out a book from the bookcase, pressed the button on the back, and the bookcase opened like a door. Inside it was really a tech room, with bright lights, computer clusters, several CRT monitors, and an unfinished instrument on a workbench. Howard came to the computer, fiddled with it for a while, and then the lights in the villa went out, followed by the monitoring screen composed of several monitors next to it, showing the images captured by the infrared camera, inside the villa, outside the villa, and on the road outside the manor. Sure enough, 3 black subs had already driven into the range of the manor. But, how did Bucky find out? Of course, when Bucky first came here, he searched with the prosthetic eye and found the cameras here, and the prosthetic eye was always connected to one of them. Then use the field of view of the connected camera to constantly switch to other cameras to monitor the surrounding situation at any time. Bucky is not surprised. Hydra will find here so quickly, not to mention the assassination of Howard Stark but failed such a big thing. It is Hydra's secret weapon Winter Soldier, suddenly lost contact, enough for Hydra the ground exploded. Speaking of it, this is completely Hydra's carelessness. Moda's emotional killing machine has performed too many tasks perfectly, without a single deviation, without any accidents. No matter how careful you are, you will gradually get used to it, and will leave the matter to the Winter Soldier. Just wait for him to complete the task, and it will be in vain if you lie down as a routine. Until something really goes wrong. That is, the GPS positioning system in Bucky's unicorn arms suddenly disappeared, and Hydra lost Bucky's location. Only then did they quickly send personnel to investigate. But after all, it was too late, and finally only found the charred car and the body of the same model inside. I checked the surveillance video near the car, but saw that the Winter Soldier had completed the task. Some people even had a little luck because of this. But no matter how much he waited, he couldn't wait for any contact from Bucky. It was only then that they realized that the problem was serious, mobilized urgently, mobilized all available forces, and finally found a clue. Their Winter Soldier is fine. Howard Stark, their target, was fine. Hydra exploded directly. After all, Hydra is parasitic within S.H.I.E.L.D. Not an open organization. Hydra is very powerful, but it can't use much power on the bright side. The manpower that can be mobilized in an emergency is enough elite, and it will not arouse the alert of S.H.I.E.L.D. At least they can't trace any clues, only a dozen people in the 3 subs. That old guy, Alexander Pierce, is going to try to throw a tantrum? Bucky, who has a spoiler posture, naturally believes that the most likely person behind the assassination of Howard is the big boss of Captain America 2. The The Winter Soldier in the future. Freddy is not light Alexander Pierce. Thinking about this big boss who was so anxious to blow up, but couldn't guess what went wrong, Bucky felt a little refreshed. However, the immediate problem is solved first. Bucky came out of the villa, lurking in the darkness, but with the low light mode of the optical prosthetic eye, he could see everything around him. 1, 2, 12 people. The generals were also lurking, wearing infrared night vision goggles and fully armed personnel, marking them with optical prosthetic eyes one by one, showing bright strokes in the field of vision. Bucky took a deep breath. Stealing corpses and blocking cars are all trivial matters. If there is no difficult action, you will not feel how difficult the choice is. Even if you save Howard Stark, you will never die with Hydra. But do you really want to leave behind your past self, really become the Winter Soldier, really kill someone with your own hands? This was his first real test when he came to this world. With the soul of a modern person and the 3 views of an ordinary person, even with the memory fragments of the ruthless killing of the Winter Soldier, can he really take the lives of fresh people with his own hands? Does he really have the consciousness to have blood on his hands? The answer is no. Asking himself, Bucky still came to such a conclusion. But I also have no choice. What if there is no one? Can you turn around and run away? Just stay incognito and spend the rest of your life silently, waiting for Thanos, who has collected 6 gems, to snap his fingers? Or should I accept the past of the Winter Soldier, accept my current situation, and make a vigorous journey, so that I can travel through it in vain? Damn it. Bucky closed his eyes, took a deep breath, shook the assault rifle in his hand, and when his index finger moved the safety, he opened his eyes with a determined expression. The 12-member assault team was already less than 50 meters away from the villa. The leader made a few tactical gestures, and the team immediately became a spread-out formation. They had to be divided into 2 teams to outflank them. Puff. Ding. But at this moment, a muffler assault rifle suddenly fired, breaking the silence of the night. This shot accurately hit a team member's head. However, instead of blood spattering, sparks burst out. The bullets from the assault rifle failed to penetrate the matte black metal helmet. The material of this helmet is not ordinary. However, this player, because even with the cushioning of the helmet and lining, still had a huge impact. He suddenly lowered his head, and then fell headfirst to the ground, grabbing the ground with his head. Puff puff. Puff puff. However, the others heard and saw it, but their bodies couldn't react. The ambusher in the dark followed by 3 more shots. However, these 3 shots hit the back of another team member, but they just knocked that person down to the ground. Enemy attack. Find cover. Only then did they react. The leader yelled loudly, and everyone quickly dispersed and fell down. The man who was shot 3 times in the back also rolled over, and then picked up the gun, but he didn't suffer any damage that affected his mobility. Maid, did you lick all the top 3 armors? The ambusher in the dark, Bucky with a black gun, cursed secretly when he saw this. This group of people is so well equipped. Of course, he wouldn't be the opponent of the original Winter Soldier, but now Bucky feels a bit difficult to deal with. But there was no hesitation, because the other party had already followed the direction Bucky fired and shot in this direction. Fortunately, the consciousness belongs to the Traverser, but the body belongs to a super soldier. Bucky's physique has already surpassed the limit of what humans can achieve. Suddenly, he burst out, and within a breath, he has already jumped more than 10 meters away. And although Bucky's heartbeat was so violent that he could hear it, and his heart was too nervous, he had no fear, it was just excitement. The first time is always the most memorable and also the hardest, but after shooting, it is surprisingly easy. Before firing the first bullet, Bucky was hesitant, but once he fired it, it was as if the valve had been opened, and there was no barrier behind him. Not only is it not uncomfortable, but it is even very comfortable. Thanks to the other party's excellent equipment and no blood, Bucky subconsciously told himself that this is a game, and this is the anti-terrorist rainbow-eating chicken. If a shot blows the target's head off, and his brains fly all over the sky, let's see if he's still excited. However, the opponent is equipped with excellent bulletproof equipment and is also a very elite soldier, so it is indeed a bit difficult to deal with. If the original Winter Soldier had a way to deal with a situation like this, it was very simple, just charge directly. That's physical fitness, combat quality, a killing machine that surpasses the most elite special forces in an all-round way. Even with such 12 fighters, he can rely on his strong body and reaction to dodge, or use his unicorn arm to block the shot, and get close. The Keelin arm swung the knife one by one, killing them all, and he would not be brushed aside by the bullets. But the current Bucky didn't have all the combat skills and experience of the Winter Soldier at all, and he didn't have the consciousness to splash blood for the time being. Maid, you forced me to do this. There were 3 people on the other side who continued to shoot, looking for their possible moving positions, and Bucky could only move again. The other opponents directly surrounded them from the two wings. Bucky is a little anxious. The first battle after crossing, you can't stretch your hips. System. Crafting items, SPT-32 Ice Storm. System information. Consume 40 common item components to make items, SPT-32 Ice Storm. SPT-32 Ice Storm, white common item, level 1, kinetic sniper rifle, damage 60 to 80, 0.83 attacks per second, load 6 kilograms. In front of this weapon, there is no cover at all. With the flashing red and blue neon blocks in Bucky's hands, an anti-material sniper rifle over 1 meter long gradually took shape. The metal and mechanical beauty of the gun body, the large caliber, and the sophisticated auxiliary equipment all show that this gun is cold and violent. And this gun, although it is a blank slate, although it is the lowest level one, it is a Cyberpunk 2077 weapon, and it is still more fierce than any existing gun here. Bucky prostrated himself on the ground, and set up this big killer. For the weapons produced by the system, he directly mastered how to use them. The holographic sight aimed at an enemy who was also prostrate on the ground, and his finger touched the trigger. Boom. Originally, both sides were using silenced rifles, firing at each other, but at this moment, there was a huge roar like a cannon fire. Through the holographic scope of the SPT-32 Ice Storm sniper rifle, Bucky could clearly see that the prostrate target, with its head wearing a metal helmet, exploded like a watermelon that had been hit hard. Its entire body was pierced from head to toe, and when the body bulged, a large pile of inexplicable things sprayed out from the lower part of the body. So he vomited without hesitation. Fortunately, he hadn't eaten for nearly 12 hours, and he had only eaten a few energy bars before, so he had nothing to vomit, so he became retching. He guessed the result, but not the effect. Not only him, but Howard, who saw all this through the surveillance camera, also felt nauseated, and even felt cheated. You agreed to only make a remote control, but you turned your face and made a remote control that can summon JoJo's boss? Explain? Well, it's not that exaggerated, but in contrast, he couldn't help but suspect that Bucky was playing him. Boom. Spit to spit, immersed in the role of the Winter Soldier, Bucky, who has a strong calm attribute, did not stop his movements, spit and shoot at the same time. Because the enemy had already reacted when the first shot was fired, the commander ordered his men to rush over without hesitation. The enemy is clear and we are dark, and there is no way to avoid it. At this time, instead of retreating and leaving behind the fierce beast in the dark, it is better to rush forward and fight. And Bucky's sharp reaction, strong concentration, and the positioning of the optical prosthetic eye allow him to capture the whereabouts of fast-moving enemies even when bullets are flying around him. The second shot was still a precise hit, this time on the left chest of another soldier. The previous 5.56mm body armor, which could not effectively damage the soldiers wearing it, was easily broken and penetrated by the tungsten core bullet of SPT-32 Ice Storm. On the warrior's chest, a blood hole the size of a cup was left. After piercing through, his back was like a firework bursting out, spewing out pieces of blood and flesh. This didn't deter the enemy, they were still charging wildly. This didn't make Bucky retch again, the enemy's madness gave him no such time. Boom. Boom. Another 2 shots, another 2 enemies, died in a horrible way. This made the commander who was holding the formation couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. He seemed to have foreseen that he was the last one to fall on the way to charge. However, the roar of the God of Death came to an abrupt end. The power is really great, but the magazine capacity is too small. Not only the roar of the God of Death, but the God of Death himself has slipped away. Future Technology's anti-material rifle is really powerful, but with only 4 rounds of bullets, it doesn't have a sustained strike force when facing a large number of targets. And Bucky only has these 4 bullets, and he only has time to make a gun, but not a bullet yet. 4 shots were fired, and the enemy had already locked Bucky's position. The nearest enemy was close to 20 meters away from Bucky. However, in just one breath, this distance becomes 50 meters again. Don't forget, Bucky's physical fitness has also surpassed the limit of human beings. He can turn around and taunt Bolt in a meter race. The powerful explosive power allowed Bucky to distance himself from the enemy in an instant. As long as Bucky wants to run, even if he is running erratically to avoid shooting, and the enemy is chasing and attacking fiercely, the distance between the 2 sides will only continue to widen. And when Bucky was running, the red and blue neon color blocks on his hand flickered, a new magazine was made, and the bomb was changed, and the distance between the 2 sides was another 80 meters. Then, Bucky's powerful body made him jump from the running state, stop his figure, then turn around, kneel on one knee, raise the gun, aim, smooth as silk, flowing like clouds and flowing water, all in one go. Even the enemy can feel the beauty of Bucky's movements in an instant. The next moment, boom, another enemy fell. All of a sudden, all the people who had hoped that Bucky was lucky because he ran out of ammunition felt icy cold again. Pull the bolt and shoot. Boom. However, the enemy who fell this time threw out the shock bomb he was holding in his hand before dying. Bang. Bucky's powerful reaction, and the fighting feeling he gradually found in the Winter Soldier's body, let him capture every detail on the battlefield, burst out immediately, and dodge. However, even though Bucky was not caught by the strong light of the shock bomb, he was shocked by the violent roar from a not too far away. Maid, you should put on a prosthetic ear. Fortunately, the sound of his own big killer, the anti-material sniper rifle, was quite loud. Although Bucky had a ringing in his ears, it didn't affect his actions. Boom. The nearest enemy rushed to a distance of nearly 20 meters in front of Bucky, but was shot by Bucky in the lower abdomen, and his entire stomach exploded. Eager. However, this enemy, at the last moment of his life, did not howl in anger or despair, but shouted a Russian word with all his strength. Bucky was taken aback for a moment, his body tensed subconsciously, and he was in a trance for a moment. It was just this time to take a breath. The next enemy, seeing Bucky's reaction, rushed up one after another, and shouted hoarsely. Rust. After this loud roar, he originally had the intention to close his eyes and wait for death, but he gritted his teeth and closed his eyes, and what he waited for was silence. He and his teammates saw that formidable warrior, that ruthless killing machine, stop moving. In an instant, they all stepped out of the cliff with one foot, and their whole bodies leaned forward. There was a gust of wind behind them, but a hand pulled them back. Narrow escape. The feeling of slipping from the palm of death, the indescribable excitement. 17. Dawn. Stove. However, this is not over. The commander is the most calm. Seeing that except for the one who injured his neck at the beginning and was still lying on the ground, his remaining 3 team members were in a daze with the Winter Soldier and forgot to read the words. He hurried pick it up loudly, and ran over while shouting. Go home. 1. Wagon. The commander and 3 team members came to Bucky, who had put down his guns and stood up, defenseless. They all pointed their guns at him without daring to be careless. Soldier. The commander stared at Bucky's blank eyes, and asked cautiously. Sir, you made a comparison. But he saw that Bucky's eyes brightened instantly, his mouth twisted, and his mouth was fragrant. However, he didn't have time to react. He only saw a metallic ponytail holding up a black fist, which was continuously enlarged in his field of vision. Bang. The commander instantly felt a severe pain in his face, followed by a sharp pain in his neck, but only for this moment, and the next moment, he fell directly into the darkness. But he didn't fall down. Instead, his head was turned 180 degrees by the swift and fierce impact, and his head drooped on his back. Bucky suddenly violently hurt people, and with a flick of the steel unicorn arm, a punch directly took away a person's head. Then, without stopping for a moment, he drew out the field knife at his waist with his right hand and threw it out. A black light flashed across, and hit an enemy's throat until it reached the handle. Damn it. F***ck. Choo choo choo. The other 2 soldiers roared angrily and pulled the trigger ferociously. Puff puff. However, the bullets fired by the 2 hit the body of the commander, who was easily held in front of Bucky with the steel unicorn arm. Call. Bucky just pushed, but because of the huge strength of the unicorn arm, the commander's body roared away like a shell. Knock a soldier into the air in an instant. The last soldier left, Bucky was also lost in sight. Hey. But Bucky ran directly behind the opponent, and blew lightly in his ear with his probe. Then, without waiting for the other party to turn around, with a click, he twisted the other party's neck 180 degrees and faced himself. Help you add. Long live Hydra. After Bucky finished speaking, he threw the body down, drew out the silencer pistol on his lap, and shot the headshot of the overturned soldier with 2 bangs, and then went to lie on the ground again, and the last survivors who passed out were 2 more. Gun. So far, all 12 fighters have been wiped out. Call. From the very beginning of spitting it out, to the retching of vomiting, and now, I was just a little dazed, but I didn't feel any discomfort. It's really quick to adapt. Bucky couldn't help but sigh a little. After all, the experience belongs to the Winter Soldier, and the willpower is given by the calming attribute of the system. And he is still the soul of the ordinary people who traveled through. This kind of feeling that he clearly wanted to be uncomfortable, but he couldn't think about it at all, only calm and indifferent, made him very uncomfortable. However, after all, it is much better than being frightened, dumbfounded, and mentally broken. If it's an ordinary person, let alone do it with his own hands, just look at the scene, the indescribable things shot out by the powerful anti-material sniper rifle, the sand value will be crazy, and it will collapse on the spot. The first time is raw, the second time is familiar, next time you will get used to it. Bucky just stood there, muttering to himself in a daze, digesting his contradictory feelings. Hey, are you okay? At this moment, the villa turned on the lights, and Howard Stark poked his head out from the gate, looking at Bucky and the dead people here with a complex and curious expression. It's not that he has never experienced war, on the contrary, he has experienced the cruelest war, but he has never charged on the front line, and he has never personally experienced the cruelty of blood and blood. Now with his own eyes, well, through monitoring, he observed the whole process of Bucky's crushing killing most directly. For a while, he still found it hard to accept. But at the same time, he felt a great sense of security in his heart. Such a powerful fighter is now on his side. Who doesn't want to have a god teammate, follow him to eat chicken, and follow him to be the king? However, he still had lingering fears. If it wasn't for an unexpected situation, the person in front of him would still be a killing machine controlled by Hydra, and the one who died miserable would be him and his wife. Hey, what about you, are you okay? Bucky kicked the corpse on the ground, and then said to Howard. He's not well, he's completely out of breath, and so are the others. Howard couldn't help rolling his eyes, heaved a sigh of relief, and at the same time, he was sure that the guy in front of him really had something wrong with his brain, and this was not at all the Bucky Barnes in his memory who knew how to be handsome and cool. Why didn't anyone survive? Hey, where's your gun? Bucky's performance made Howard walk over with confidence, but found that the weapon made by the other party with the special ability that suddenly appeared was not on him. That's right. When did he lose that gun? Put it away. Obviously, this ability that I don't know how to appear has a little more functions than making remote controls. Bucky's cyberpunk system has a system space, that is, the backpack page, where the previously disassembled components are stored. Other system equipment is also available. It seems that there is no slot limit, but there is a load limit. The sniper rifle is 6 kilograms, and Bucky's 7-point physical attribute load is 170 kilograms, which means that the sniper rifle can only store more than 20 pieces, but there is no limit on the number of components with 0 load. And only items recognized by the system can be stored, that is, disassembled components, manufactured by the system, or obtained by other means in the system. Packed up. Where? How'd I know? It's just put away anyway. Bucky answered with a routine answer. Take it out again. According to Bucky's words, the red and blue neon blocks flashed in his hand, and the big gun appeared in his hand again. What a magical ability. Can you feel the weight when you put it away? Do it again? Can you show me this gun? A certain arms dealer who was originally interested in the incomparably fierce power of the big gun was now attracted by this even more magical ability. Which one did I hear from you? Howard kept asking questions quickly, and he directly told Bucky that he was confused. Looking at this old thing again, he looked like he wanted to dispel him, so he quickly resisted the urge to scream, and changed the subject and said, "What we should be most concerned about right now is not my ability." As he spoke, he pointed to the dead people on the ground around him. Of course, I've already contacted you, and the rapid response force from S.H.I.E.L.D. will arrive soon, so before that, we have to make another plan. Your ability cannot be announced to the outside world for the time being. I have already processed the video. Yes, but the wounds on these people need an excuse, and Howard used his genius mind that day, and Bucky felt relieved for a while. It really saves a lot of trouble to have a smart person by his side. The two were discussing, mainly based on Howard's analysis, and Bucky was not as assertive as his original good friend, big muscular team, and always disagreed with his future nephew Tony. He is now working happily with Howard. I am willing to save some time and let Howard use his genius wisdom. As for Bucky himself, while listening, he occasionally raised reasonable opinions, and focused more on his own system. Because, system information. Destroy 12 enemies, gain 300 experience points, complete the series of missions, betrayal, complete mission 2, first firefight, and reward 500 experience points. The character is promoted to level 2, free attribute points +1, free specialty points +1. Experience value 302 thousandths, HP, 180 180ths, stamina, 140 140ths. Free attribute points. 1. Free feat points, 8. In this battle, not only did he have experience in killing the enemy, but he also completed the task, directly promoted to level 2, with 1 attribute point and 10 specialty point, life +5, and stamina +. Although not much, but it really became stronger, which made Bucky feel satisfied for a while. The time of crossing is early enough, and there are enough opportunities in this world. Bucky is not in a hurry. System. Free attribute points + intelligence, expertise + ingenuity. The speciality point Bucky chose to light up the ingenuity of the subordinate speciality, production, of technology, which can make blue rare items, which is the super soldier serum in the system. But the attribute points continue to add intelligence. One is his own components, now only enough to make a super soldier serum, will light up the corresponding specialties. And he will continue to add intelligence, because magic, that is, the quick cracking plugin of Network Access Warehouse, requires 8 points of intelligence to make blue rare level, first point intelligence to 8, and then point technology. System, make super soldier serum and use it. System information, consumes 30 common components, 20 excellent components, 15 rare components, completed, qualified for use, used, flesh attribute +1, reaction attribute +1. Flesh 8, movement 7, annihilation 7, brawl 7, reaction 8, pistol 7, assault 7, sword 7. Technology 4, engineering 1, crafting 2, intelligence 7, intrusion protocol 1, quick crack 1. Comm 11, stealth 7, cold blood 1, HP, 190 190ths. Stamina, 145 145ths, new specialty, ingenuity, free feat points, 7. A strange feeling of coldness but then turned into hotness filled Bucky's whole body. In an instant, Bucky felt his whole body was filled with explosive power, and he was restless for a while, but he quickly controlled it. Very good, I have become stronger. Oh, almost forgot. After scanning his character panel, Bucky slapped his forehead. The enemy came too fast just now, he was a little nervous, and forgot something. System, add 1 point of cold-blooded talent to drinking blood like hair. System information. Get the new talent Ru Mao drinking blood. Drink blood like hair. Every time an enemy is eliminated, speed +2%, lasts for 10 seconds. Free feat points. 6. This is a combat specialty talent, the effect is good, but it is specially added because of the cold-blooded specialty, and it is necessary to rely on this specialty talent to gain experience, just like the production and dismantling of technology, the reaction of firearms and swords, etc. I didn't think about it just now added up. The expertise experience of 12 enemies is just wasted. More enemies are needed. With the system, the growth and strengthening visible to the naked eye made Bucky even less concerned about the various discomforts before. On the contrary, he was still a little eager to try again. People come very quickly. However, it wasn't the Hydra troops that made Bucky refuse to look forward to another wave. Here comes an eyeball. Well, it's a person. However, on this big night, this African-American person wore an eye patch over his left eye, a black leather jacket, a black turtleneck sweater, black pants and black leather shoes, and was illuminated by the headlights behind him. Except for the outline, you can really hardly make out anything on him except the eyeballs. When he got out of the car, Bucky watched, it really seemed like an eyeball was floating over. Mr. Stark, and this? Well, when talking, there are 2 more rows of teeth. Cough. Howard, who greeted him at the door, saw Bucky next to him with a stern expression on his face, his mouth slightly curled downwards, his nostrils stretched out, more serious than singing the national anthem. His genius brain instantly judged that the inconsequential goods are holding back their laughter. He rolled his eyes, coughed quickly, and said, Agent Fury, here you come. This is Sergeant Barnes. Hello, Sergeant Barnes. Fury looked at Bucky. This night, he just received a call from a SHIELD veteran. He only knew it was an emergency, so he rushed here with his people. Although he had a very good memory and a very quick reaction, for a while, he couldn't connect this shoulder-length hair and bearded man with the fair and handsome young man in the photos he had seen. Hello, Agent Fury, I'm Bucky Barnes. Bucky naturally guessed at the first glance that this eyeball and these 2 rows of teeth belonged to the famous Mayor Falkman. However, the majestic Frankman of this period is not the classic bald-headed black marinated egg image in Bucky's memory, but a thick layer of black hair on his head. But the eyes, didn't the eyelids be scratched by some yuan-devouring beast, and then go blind immediately? How did this guy do it? He is not yet the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., but now he is just a senior agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., with an agent level of 7, which is equivalent to the future little transparent Hawkeye, or the most brilliant supporting role, Phil Cole Agent Sen. Hiss, it's really you. Nick Fury shook hands with Bucky, his eyes widened with disbelief on his face, and he almost blurted out a sentence of majestic fuck. Isn't it the Chief Bureau Chief who will not be surprised when he sees aliens in the future? Agent Fury, let's go into the house and say, leave it to the person you brought to deal with it. Oh, okay, Agent Coulson, I'll leave it to you. Hearing what Howard said, Nick Fury turned around and said to a man in a suit who was in his early 30s and had a deep hairline, looking very friendly. Knowing the seriousness of the matter, Fury naturally wouldn't come alone, and urgently dispatched 2 subs and 8 agents. Bucky just met Coulson's curious eyes, nodded slightly to Mr. Hairline, who will have a lot of scenes in the future, and glanced at the cold-looking Asian woman next to him, then turned around, followed Howard and Fury returned to the villa. That's the case. There are S.H.I.E.L.D. agents scrubbing the floor outside, so don't worry about it for now. In the villa, Howard told Nick Fury the whole story. Of course, he was just explaining from his perspective, just a simple explanation. Not only did Bucky not kill him, but he saved him. How he saved him, absorbing serum, changing the remote control and so on, he didn't say anything. These nonsense were all done by Bucky himself. Sergeant Barnes. Just call me Bucky. Speaking of which, I seem to have heard the name Nick Fury. That's my adoptive father, he also participated in World War E. The Nick Fury here is naturally the setting of the movie universe, but Bucky really did not rely on the spoiler posture before time travel, but really found the name Nick Fury in the memory fragments of the original body. So this one in front of me is Nicholas J. Fury, and his adoptive father, Nick Fury I, is the peer of the 2P who played the arcade Punisher before Bucky crossed over. He participated in World War E, and the war ended. Later, he adopted him, the second prince, and died not long after. This is the one in front of me, who became friends with the Punisher during the Vietnam War. But this is all off topic, the key is Nick Fury's problem. Then I'll call you Bucky, can you tell me about your situation? Bucky began to explain his situation, that is, to erase everything about time travel and superpowers, and only talk about the remaining facts. The fact is that during Bucky Barnes's brainwashing process, unexpected variables appeared, which made him lose a lot of memory and at the same time get rid of Hydra. Well, I don't know what I'm talking about here for Nick Fury. What is the control of the mysterious organization? Woke up. Although he didn't completely regain himself, he didn't want to continue to be the running dog and killer of the mysterious organization, so he rebelled resolutely, saved Howard and his wife, and then protected Howard to come here, and waited for the mysterious organization to hunt him down. Howard's invention killed them. A set of rhetoric, well-founded and well-founded, makes people. Well, the one who listens to this is the future famous spy king, who can cover 3 nonsense in 1 nonsense. He will naturally not listen to it, just believe it. But he believes it or not, at least for now, it doesn't matter. No matter how fucked fake Shaw is, that's the future. Now Nick Fury is a level 7 agent, and he doesn't have as much voice as Howard, one of the semi-retired founders. But he was also the first to arrive here, even if he was not leading but assisting and cooperating, he had to dutifully ask about the situation. So, what can you tell us about that mysterious organization? It's not too much. I can describe to you the environment in the base when I woke up, but it was just where I stayed. After that, I fell into a deep sleep and was sent directly to New Jersey to perform the mission directly. The rest, yes, fragments of memory that I can't identify, are very distant, World War E memories. This is completely different from what Bucky and Howard said, and they concealed too many things, because after the two discussed it, Bucky completely lost his memory. I did some basic examinations for Bucky. I think he should be in the brainwashing process. The hippocampus inside the temporal lobe of the brain was damaged, resulting in post-traumatic amnesia. Declarative memory disappears, and he can't remember anything, but his procedural memory is still there, that is to say, his daily behavior is not affected, and because of this, he who has lost his memory will form a new consciousness and even a personality based on the new memory. Howard, as a genius, followed to endorse Bucky, a lot of medical terms, and Nick Fury was a little confused. This at least gives a complete and reasonable argument. As for whether he still has doubts, that's not Howard's concern. However, the problem is that under this set of rhetoric, there is almost no information that can help Nick Fury. Then we can only look at the corpses outside to see if we can find any clues. Nick Fury scratched his head a little. He said so, but he himself didn't believe that the mysterious organization that dared to break ground on Tai Sui, the people sent, would leave any useful information. Although I have some guesses, such as the Leviathan on the opposite side. But there is no evidence, and that's all for the time being. Mr. Stark, shall I escort the two of you back to the New York branch first? Nick Fury proposed to protect the two key figures, Howard and Bucky. Not for now, Bucky and I will continue with my previous actions. This, seeing Howard's resolute and fearless expression, Nick Fury said in his heart that he is worthy of being the founder of S.H.I.E.L.D. Even if he is a multi-billionaire, he is still so brave for his career. Is it too dangerous? It's about danger. I just want to tell those mice lurking in the dark that I'm fine, I have the means, just come. Besides, isn't Bucky protecting me? Well, it turns out that he has thighs to hug, so he is so brave. Only then did Nick Fury realize that Howard might need protection, but Bucky killed 12 fully armed elite fighters by himself. With his ferocious fighting power, coupled with Howard's genius mind and hands-on ability, the two of them were simply a match. Enhanced version of Battle Dragon. Moreover, Howard's title and level are higher than Nick Fury's. He is still performing the mission of S.H.I.E.L.D. If he wants to continue, Nick Fury has no right to object. Can you let me take the agents and act with you? There is more or less a care. Yes, but not too many people, not too conspicuous. Howard had exactly this intention, making such an extra lap just to show others. Otherwise, the super soldier serum is gone, and he escorts a lonely. Yes sir, you can leave at any time. It's best to prepare weapons. I need an assault rifle with steel core bullets and a shotgun with slug bullets. Of course, a 40mm grenade gun is better. It will be difficult to deal with enemies with that kind of equipment. Certainly. That invention of mine is exhausted. Seeing that Nick Fury was slightly puzzled by Bucky's request, Howard added. These are all minutiae. After saying a few words, Bucky carried the metal box that originally contained the serum, followed the two of them, and left the villa. The agents outside have already cleaned up the scene. They are not CSI, and they don't need to collect evidence at the scene. The murderer is on their side. Agent Coulson, Agent May, Agent Neil and Agent Fenton, follow me. Nick Fury called out the hairline, and said to Bucky secretly, it really is her, the indifferent Asian woman, and there are two popular faces. The four got into an SUV, while Nick Fury got into another with Howard and Bucky. Let Bucky's idea of getting acquainted with those two come to nothing. But along the way, not lonely. How much do you remember about World War E? My father doesn't tell me much about that time. I'm very interested in it, and Captain America. Farkman put his racial talents to good use and kept asking Bucky questions. Although regarding this mission, where he was going, and what he was escorting, he didn't say a word. Separate management and confidentiality of information were not his original rules. But how could Bucky not be able to hear? The black marinated egg. Oh, now it is a black marinated egg, constantly testing himself. And Bucky only regards this as the professional habit of the future king of secret agents. And now Bucky has high intelligence and composure attributes, quick response, strong analytical ability, and extraordinary calmness. He constantly analyzes Nick Fury's words, and finds the various extremely obscure traps and serial routines in the question very interesting. But Howard, beside Bucky, occasionally glanced at Nick Fury who was driving, but his eyes flickered. In his cognition, Nick Fury is the young man, compared to his age, who is favored by the current director Alexander Pierce, and he is a direct descendant of Pierce. And Pierce was one of his most suspicious objects. Although Pierce didn't appear in person, Nick Fury came, too. How did Nick Fury know that his habits became natural, which made Howard suspicious of him? Director Pierce? Well, I'm fine, but something is wrong. Fortunately, Nick Fury didn't keep Howard in doubt for too long. Because of Howard's Motorola Microtech, the smaller brick phone rang, and it was Pierce's call. This is the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Although it is Howard, the senior executive, who has complete autonomy, the director can also get information from any agent, so why not ask about it? So Nick Fury quieted down and listened to their conversation with Bucky. I don't know if Pierce will breathe a sigh of relief, or become more nervous. Listening to Howard's flicker, Bucky couldn't help thinking. Not long after, the call ended, and the car fell silent for a while. And this trip was just a show, so I went to the end, even if I took a detour, went to a safe house of S.H.I.E.L.D. to get equipment, and then went to the location designated by Howard. I arrived at the destination very quickly. Howard went to his secret stronghold alone, acting and doing a full set. Bucky also dutifully took precautions, but the expected attack never came. Mr. Stark, shall we go back to the New York headquarters? No, Bucky and I will go to my company's laboratory, where the equipment is more complete. Well, you can follow along. This is not my business alone. The Bureau also needs to know about Bucky's situation. Howard's answer to Nick Fury in this way also shows that Bucky is still in charge of him. Okay. Nick Fury naturally has no problem with this, he is the least resistant to secrets. New York, I really miss it. Howard, can I have a cheeseburger first? Back to New Jersey, and then cross the George Washington Bridge, you will come to Manhattan Island, New York, the brightest part of the pearl of the beautiful country. You and that kid in my family have the same taste. Seeing Bucky's inner curiosity mixed with bewilderment, and a trace of nostalgia, Howard thought to himself that this guy's acting skills are quite good, but he didn't expect that Bucky was just acting in his true colors. And tonight's thrilling experience is temporarily over, and Howard is a little relaxed. Hearing Bucky's words, the first thing that comes to mind is the brat in his family who makes him love and has a headache. He really took Bucky with him. Went to a burger joint. So the three people in the car each had a cheeseburger and a milkshake. It tastes really good, but it doesn't seem to be the one I remember. Then what about here? Howard pointed out the car, but he got on the bridge again, the Brooklyn Bridge. The road to Bucky's hometown. Bucky didn't expect that this time. The response to his body was greater than Hydra's chanting a mantra. For a while, countless long-term memories flooded into his heart. Brooklyn, Steve, home. HMPH, Mr. Stark, is there a problem? One of Howard Stark's private laboratories in Brooklyn. This great inventor with a genius mind, although his favorite and most inspired, is machinery, especially military technology. The genius's ideas and inventions are countless. But just like his nephew Tony, who inherited his genius and wisdom genes, the future Iron Man will be able to master thermonuclear physics and astronomy overnight. Howard also dabbled in a wide range of other projects from time to time, genius ideas from other branches of science. As a top god, he is naturally a private laboratory for various branches of science, and he can build one whenever he thinks of it. It just so happens that here in Brooklyn, he has a biotechnology laboratory, and there is also a court machine here. Although there is also an Emery machine here, which is a better choice, but Bucky definitely can't do it. It is equivalent to asking Bucky to go to Magneto, not to mention the metal unicorn arm. The mind controller in the brain must directly go out with a brainstorm. So Bucky lay on the court machine, while Howard and Nick Fury were in the control room, watching Bucky's court head imaging. Look here, it is the hippocampus of the temporal lobe of the brain that I mentioned before. My guess is indeed correct. His hippocampus has been traumatized before, which affects his memory, and there is a special miniature brain in this position. The device seems to be broken along with it. Howard's explanation to Nick Fury was firm, but the previous was slightly questionable. After all, Bucky's appearance was too bizarre. Deep in Howard's heart, he naturally had a suspicion that Bucky had not lost his memory. But Bucky's performance all the time, from saving his and his wife's lives, to revealing the information of Hydra, to killing the personnel who raided them, and cooperating until now, everything shows that Bucky is real. I sincerely cooperate with him. So even though he still has too many puzzles, all kinds of questions and guesses, he is still ready. Even if he finds that Bucky's mind is fine, he will go to the end to fool Nick Fury. Bucky, there was something wrong with his brain, and then he tampered with the inspection data. But he didn't expect that after thinking so much, when it came time to check, there was really something wrong in Bucky's mind. He saw that Bucky's hippocampus was indeed damaged, but as the body recovered, it recovered, but the traces were still there. It is reasonable to think that Bucky received super soldier serum modification. Moreover, there is actually a strange device in Bucky's mind. Judging from its position, it should cooperate with electric shock, erase memory, and cooperate with hypnosis. And this device is indeed broken. Maybe it is broken, and Bucky's hippocampus was damaged. Only he and his wife escaped unharmed, so what Bucky said was true. Having come to such a conclusion, Howard didn't have the guilt of judging the belly of a gentleman with a villain's heart, he just believed in Bucky more. It really saves you from fooling Nick Fury, let alone Alexander Pierce, giving him the test results directly, and even Bucky giving him directly. Oh, if this doesn't work, then you'll be beaten like a meat bun. In short, it was Bucky's situation, which perfectly fit the amnesia rhetoric they discussed, which saved Howard a lot of work. As for Nick Fury, although he still doesn't quite understand a lot of terms Howard pulled out, he can understand, Bucky has completely lost his memory. So, is there any chance for his memory to recover? So Nick Fury skipped the part of the medical discussion and asked himself the most concerned question directly. Hearing this, Howard shook his head and sighed. Under normal circumstances, if a doctor is a doctor, he will tell his patients that there is a chance, but it is not good to say, it may be a day, or it may be 10 years. And Bucky's condition is more serious than the normal damage to the hippocampus caused by external shocks. He was directly injured internally. I don't think he will even have a chance of 10 years. Can you think of some way, such as drugs or psychological guidance? Of course, it is for the purpose of treatment to help him regain his memory. Nick Fury is always very concerned about secrets. Subconsciously, he feels that some means should be used, such as hypnosis or something. How do you think Bucky was brainwashed? When Howard heard this, he frowned a little, but only for a moment. He covered it up, and continued to speak calmly. Bucky's brain can't stand any external force. To be honest, he just lost his memory, instead of being stupid or crazy. It's really lucky. Sorry, I just wanted to help too. Nick Fury apologized immediately. Actually, this may not be a good thing for him. Howard said he didn't care, and went on to say. He was controlled and brainwashed by a mysterious organization, and he was driven by people without self-awareness. No one knows what he has done. Now, he can completely forget everything, and he can also form a new consciousness and personality. It will appear to be a normal and orderly personality, which is not a bad thing for us either. What's not a bad thing? While the two were talking, Bucky came back after finishing the inspection. Howard changed the topic calmly. The condition of your brain does not seem to be a problem, and it will basically not affect your subsequent behavior, but further inspections are still needed. Oh. Tell me. Of course Bucky knew that nothing happened to him, but he still wanted to know what he was like in the eyes of outsiders. Then, looking at his own court film and listening to Howard's explanation, Bucky felt a little strange in his heart. The cyberpunk system is really something. In its own panel, the spirit controller is an intact, network access warehouse. But in the eyes of outsiders, or in reality, what is detected and observed by people is still the original broken thing. Think about it. The SPT-32, Ice Storm sniper rifle that I made before is also very technological in cyberpunk style. What does that look like in Howard's eyes? What about a more technological sense? A gun that fires bullets that automatically track bullets, or a gun that fires electromagnetically accelerated bullets? Bucky speculated that it should be invisible. The special features of guns and prosthetic bodies all come from the capabilities of the system, which seems to be a reality that cannot be observed by ordinary means. So what you make yourself, can others use it? Bucky intends to find a chance to give it a try. Certainly not now. Now that Nick Fury has seen enough things, at least a set of reasonable and well-founded statements, it's time to see off the guests. But there is one more thing. Since this matter started from me, I decided to be responsible to the end. I am fully responsible for the investigation of this incident. I will discuss it with Director Pierce in the future. Bucky will stay with me temporarily and assist me in the investigation. And being studied by you. Hearing that a certain day's big money is so righteous, Bucky can't help but secretly complain. I see. Howard is the founder, veteran, high-level executive, and still has authority. Fury is now a mere level 7 agent, so he can only obey orders. So, Agent Fury, please explain that what happened tonight must be kept confidential. Also, I need a full set of legal identities. Yes sir, I will handle it well. The identity was naturally prepared for Bucky, and Nick Fury asked directly, Bucky, do you have any requirements for the name? Well, Robert Johnny Lind, just use that name. Bucky's mind flashed an image of a rock bastard with shoulder-length hair, stubble, a cigarette, and metal unicorn arms, and a name couldn't help but blurt out. Does this name have any special meaning? Nick Fury is going to investigate in his spare time. No way, he just likes to study things that contain secret information. So, let's stop here today. Thank you and everyone for your assistance. It's just your duty, Mr. Stark. If you need anything, please contact me directly. After Howard and Nick Fury finished explaining, he said goodbye and left, and there were only 2 people left. Bucky wanted to discuss it again, but seeing Howard's tired look, he asked, is there a place for me to live? If there is no one here, I can make do with it here. Howard actually wanted to continue the discussion and study Bucky's ability. But after all, he is over 70 years old. He was sensual when he was young, and he didn't leave him with a good foundation. Also received such a big stimulus. I have a restroom here, let's deal with it for a night first. Ah. Lying on the large sofa in the lounge, watching Howard stuff a large number of capsules and tablets of various colors into his mouth, Bucky couldn't help but sigh. When people are old, they rely on drugs to support their body functions. The same is true for the elderly. Taking medicine is like eating. Have you ever thought about researching the super soldier serum and using it for yourself? Of course I did, but every time I think about it, I always think that my life is already exciting enough that I don't need to do it all over again, and what's more, there are gains and losses. I don't want to test my own human nature doesn't want to touch my memory. Howard is a sufficiently open-minded person, and he can see clearly enough. So there is no SSS plan in this world. Bucky's focus is slightly different. The SSS project is an anti-aging drug developed by S.H.I.E.L.D. scientists, which can make people age extremely slowly and maintain peak physical fitness, but it cannot prolong life. In the works that Bucky has seen before traveling, Nick Fury, Black Widow Natasha Romanoff, the comrade in arms of the Roaring Commando Dum Dugan, and Bucky himself in some universes, all continue to take this drug. But Bucky is obviously the old popsicle of the American team, and Nick Fury is the adopted son of old Fury, so the widow sister who let countless men lick her screen in her previous life should be still receiving special training in the Red House at this time, or a beautiful rookie agent who just graduated. Bucky couldn't help but think of the girl with a pearl earring who was lost in Tokyo, wearing a tight combat uniform, and was a little dazed for a while. And Howard was already on the bed, snoring. Bucky was actually a little tired, but what he had experienced was even more bizarre than Howard's, and he couldn't sleep at all. But need to rest. System, go to sleep, 1 hour. System information. Consume 80 energy points and take a 1-hour system rest. Bucky only felt a blackness in front of his eyes, a momentary fragment, and then he recovered. Looking at the time, it is really a moment, but people already feel refreshed, as if they have gone through 8 hours of deep sleep. This is the benefit of sleep in the system. Just like sleep in the game, it can restore body functions and restore health, but the energy to restore the body is not for nothing, and the corresponding energy should be consumed according to Bucky's physical strength. Now that he was no longer sleepy, Bucky got up and quietly left the restroom, went to the laboratory, and found a computer. The computer here is still the kind of big and thick CRT monitor, but Bucky remembered that the Pentium 1 generation from the toothpaste factory should be out soon, but when he turned on the computer, Stark was using neither Win30 nor Pentium 1, but they are all systems and microprocessors developed by his own company, and this system is already very user-friendly, with strong man-machine dialogue capabilities. It seems that in the future, when other people play Win7, he will play Jarvis's nephew Tony. In terms of artificial intelligence, he will still stand on his father's shoulders to see further. According to what Howard told him before, Bucky entered the system with a certain level of security code and searched for the camera of a certain warehouse. Then 4 monitoring interfaces popped up, which were the secret places where the previous few people went to store the serum. Although he didn't have much hope, Howard also expected that the enemy would show his feet carelessly. Although Howard has no direct subordinates and little control over S.H.I.E.L.D., he still has a way to monitor S.H.I.E.L.D.'s movements with his genius mind and various resources, and he can quietly investigate by himself. In fact, no one needs to watch the surveillance video. Howard has set up an early warning program. If there is any suspicious movement, the program will automatically intercept it. Bucky just wants to use this computer. So Bucky pulled out a data cable from the base of the palm of his steel unicorn arm, thinking about how to find a PS2 or an old-fashioned printer interface. You will be prompted by the system. You can directly create. As a result, the red and blue neon blocks on the head of the data cable flickered and turned into a network cable interface, which was plugged into the host. In this way, Bucky can directly connect to the computer through the network access chamber, and operate with his own consciousness. So on the computer screen, 2 web page dialog boxes opened, which is not an exaggeration, but the information on the web page is also changing very quickly. Bucky's 7-point system intelligence attribute allows him to at least be distracted and browse information quickly. However, limited by the speed of the internet in this era and the construction of the network itself, Bucky can only browse some mainstream news, but it is enough for Bucky to try to be familiar with everything in this era. In this way, time passed unconsciously, and it seemed that it was dawn in a blink of an eye. Howard slept soundly, and Bucky played leisurely on the computer. However, Howard was attacked, and the lost heroes of World War E returned to the world. Winter Soldier rebelled and lost contact for unknown reasons, such explosive news. Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. have already blown up, Washington, D.C. S.H.I.E.L.D. Headquarters, Tri-Wing Building. Office of the Chief Executive. Alexander Pierce, Howard Stark and other founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. recruited the first batch of S.H.I.E.L.D. students, not the agents absorbed from various departments at that time, but young students trained by S.H.I.E.L.D. itself. In the eyes of others, he is a well-established S.H.I.E.L.D. agent with strong professional and organizational skills, who eventually became director of S.H.I.E.L.D. He is one of the most classic inspirational models. Others don't know that before he entered the academy, he was recruited by Hydra. His business ability, leadership, and achievements are all silently supported by Hydra. He is the biggest beneficiary of the Paperclip project, bar none. Because the Hydra recruited by the Paperclip project, due to its own historical reasons, must not be able to become a high-level executive, but they secretly support a S.H.I.E.L.D. Pierce sits on the director's chair, secretly dirty and smooth on the surface. His growth history is the process of Hydra parasitizing S.H.I.E.L.D., and his status within Hydra also keeps rising. As one of the leaders of Hydra, Pierce is certainly not satisfied with the status quo. This kind of symbiotic relationship between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra has me in you and you in me. On behalf of Hydra, he will completely devour S.H.I.E.L.D. and let the glory of Hydra shine to every corner of the world. And more than 10 years ago, by chance, he used Hydra's resources to get a piece of news. The #1 assistant of the Red Skull back then, the super genius Dr. Zola, actually did not die. Instead, he digitized his own soul and stored it in a supercomputer. Pierce didn't quite understand these things, but he knew that this must be a genius invention of Dr. Zola's, which had a great attraction for him. After that, he spent a lot of energy and resources, and finally got Dr. Zola. In a secret Siberian stronghold, in a room full of computers with tape storage devices that Pierce looked outdated, a pixelated face of Dr. Zola was displayed on a small monitor. But not control, because Dr. Zola has become an electronic consciousness and really has a personality. He thinks he is second only to the Red Skull. Dr. Zola is willing to assist Pierce, but not wholeheartedly. He seems to have his own plan. And he doesn't seem to be that powerful. He seems to be confined in those old computers and cannot be transferred, which makes him still a super genius, but he can't use more powerful computers to do more things. Still, he gave Pierce a lot of useful stuff. For example, during World War E, when the S-Team was born, and Hydra failed to capture the super soldier serum, he also tried to restore the formula of the serum. Although he was unsuccessful, he developed a side effect based on the blood provided by the Red Skull. A degraded version of the serum that is larger but less effective. But it was just an accidental experiment, a product that cannot be reproduced. And it was after that Dr. Zola planned to ambush Captain America and the Howling Commandos on a train, causing Sergeant Bucky Barnes to fall into the abyss. He himself was arrested, and then left by the remnants of Hydra, and got Bucky, who used that serum to transform him into the first Winter Soldier. As a result, Pierce started with the Winter Soldier and the Hydra, who has been in control of the Winter Soldier, representing the Hydra, to continue in vain. There was also a time when he knew that Howard was going to bring a batch of blood he had left behind with Captain America, and the serum he had researched seemed to be the reason for the serious side effects. He didn't want to continue the experiment, but had to seal it up. Pierce was moved. It doesn't matter if the side effects are big, he can brainwash and bleach. So decisively ordered the Winter Soldier to attack. However, Pierce, who was waiting for the result and waiting for the white floater to succeed, did not expect that the news he received was that the Winter Soldier had lost control. Instead of killing Howard, he forged evidence, delayed time, and saved Howard. Pierce blew up. He didn't understand at all. How could something go wrong with a toolman who had been working in vain for more than 10 years? But that's the way it is. The Winter Soldier has turned his back on him, and he's going to be exposed. Pierce can't wait to unleash all his power directly and strangle the Winter Soldier and Howard together in the cradle. But he can't. Because the opponent is Howard Stark, there is an alert Howard Stark. Although Pierce is the director, the other party is also a senior executive, super rich and super talented, and the other party has prepared earlier than him to start a full-scale war. He feels that he has no certainty of winning. And even if he wants to start a full-scale war, he can't mobilize most of the troops for a while. After all, he is the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and his subordinates are all S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and they all have to perform tasks. Pierce, who has been going smoothly all his life, does not have the courage to do everything. Instead, he had the urge to drop everything and run away. But he was reluctant to have everything he had. At this time, he hesitated for a while, but he urgently dispatched the most elite Hydra fighters in his hands to try to capture the Winter Soldier, and continued to gather troops. Sure enough, it failed. However, when Pierce was frightened and a little ruthless, he kept jumping left and right between the two options of run away and just fight. He got a call from Howard. Then he heard Howard tell him that it was suspected that some mysterious organization had infiltrated the S.H.I.E.L.D. Not only did he not mention the word Hydra at all, he didn't even suspect him at all. After all, he was an old secret agent for a lifetime, and Pierce immediately said calmly. Then what made him a little dumbfounded was that Howard actually told him that Bucky Barnes had completely lost his memory and couldn't remember anything, so he didn't kill him. Is it possible? Who do you think you are fooling? 3-year-old or director of S.H.I.E.L.D. However, what made Pierce feel unbelievable was that not only Howard, but also Nick Fury, who he single-handedly promoted and trusted him, and a few of his real subordinates who accompanied him, all told him that Bucky Bane's steward at least appears to have lost his memory. People are always willing to lean towards the true thoughts in their subconscious, and when other people's words are biased toward this idea, people are always more willing to believe. Pierce is more willing to believe that what they say is true. And when Nick Fury reported to him and faxed him a court scan of Bucky Barnes' head, after he consulted a professional, he felt that there could only be two situations. Howard and Bucky had fooled Nick Fury. Or Nick Fury and the two partnered to cheat him. The balance in Pierce's heart became more and more inclined. Bucky's amnesia is real, and he really can't remember anything related to Hydra. But we can't just draw conclusions like that. However, all of this was enough to make Pierce, who couldn't bear to be cruel and turned his face directly, completely give up the idea of directly flipping the table. Of course, it is also temporary. Having had dual identities for too long, the last thing Pierce needs is patience and caution. He will continue to gather his forces, try to guard him, and be on guard against Howard's possible actions at any time. Will continue to test Bucky Barnes to make sure he really lost his memory. And when he was sure, Howard could keep it, but Bucky. Pierce subconsciously hated Bucky, who had brought him all these troubles, more than he hated the more powerful Howard. No matter what, He has spent more than 10 years in vain, so he must have some feelings, and suddenly betrayed him. If you say turn your face, simply callous and unreasonable. There is no law. Well, this is not Pierce's real mood, but it is roughly similar to this, a very wronged feeling. For Pierce, it was a sleepless night, and he was still struggling. He couldn't make up his mind for a while about how to deal with Howard and Bucky. Fortunately, Bucky and Howard are not going to fuck him right away. He still has time to continue hesitating. Everyone has plenty of time to play slowly. Manhattan, New York. Cedars Sinai Medical Center. An exclusive research area that is not open to the public. In the corridor, a young and beautiful blonde girl stood imposingly in front of the snack vending machine. Her slender palm kept pressing the buttons of the vending machine. Her beautiful little round face was bulging with anger. The angry girl didn't notice. A tall figure walked by her side, and asked her in a very magnetic voice, a little funny. Stuck on snacks? Yeah, this broken machine. Ah, it's you. The blonde girl spoke American English with a somewhat London accent, but she could barely hear it. And it was only then that she realized that she was startled like a deer, and when she looked at the shoulder-length bearded handsome man beside her, she blushed a little. It just so happens that I want to eat this too. The person who came was Bucky. He didn't use the steel unicorn arm to smash the vending machine, nor did he use the prosthetic eye to scan and hack it in. He just stuffed another piece of change and bought the same snack, and the stuck snacks fell together. The blonde girl quickly calmed down, took the snack, and asked with a smile, "Are you done talking, Mr. Barnes? Just call me Bucky. Your aunt and I are acquaintances. You can actually call me uncle. I'll call you Bucky, and you can also call me Sharon. I never expected to see you alive. You are a legendary figure." Sharon is actually a little happy. This is one of the characters she admires very much. When she saw him for the first time just now, she just screamed out. But uncle or something, she always felt that the smile in the eyes of the living legend in front of her was somewhat weird. That is of course strange. Bucky didn't come here to flirt. He didn't mean it at all. This is still a 15 or 16-year-old girl. Bucky came to see his future second sister-in-law, and tried to seduce second sister-in-law. Call him uncle, so that when he meets his good friends in the future, he will have an advantage in ethics. Of course, there is also the future sister-in-law. After all, the sister-in-law is the aunt of the second sister-in-law, so she is a generation higher than herself, but if she is the uncle of the second sister-in-law, isn't she also the uncle of the eldest sister-in-law? It sounds a bit messy, but in short, Bucky's unknown thoughts have clearly stated the identities of the eldest sister-in-law and the second sister-in-law. The beautiful blonde girl in front of her is Sharon Carter, future Bucky's good friend and the first official girlfriend of the Big Muscle team. But later, by mistake and fate, the Big Muscle Baymay team has a newcomer and forgets the old, or in other words, the old man forgets the new, travels back to the past, and his first love, Sharon Carter's aunt Peggy Carter, Shuangsu Shuangfei went. As for Sharon Carter, who stole her aunt's boyfriend and was snatched back by her aunt, why did she appear here and meet Bucky? It's all Nick Fury's fault. He's just too efficient. Black-haired egg. Then I'm really sorry, Mommy Fock. After Nick Fury left Howard's laboratory, Bucky's new identity was delivered at noon the next day. Then, with Howard and Bucky, they came to the hospital funded by the Stark Group in New York, which allowed S.H.I.E.L.D. to have a separate research area here. Said to give Bucky a full, well-equipped medical checkup. Of course it was still for S.H.I.E.L.D. However, here, I saw an unexpected person. Peggy Carter, who is in charge of the S.H.I.E.L.D. in London, and her niece, Sharon Carter, a rookie student who has just entered S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy. Without notifying anyone, the two groups of people who came low-key just ran into each other by such a coincidence, and they looked at each other for a while. Then the heroine with a tough style in Bucky's impression, and almost developed a relationship with his good friend, but it was good luck. The prospective sister-in-law, Peggy Carter, after seeing Bucky, naturally shocked, he was immediately stunned. Then Bucky, Howard, and Peggy Carter avoided everyone, and only these three former comrades in arms got together. After explaining again, Peggy understood the whole story. However, she left the beautiful country a few years ago and returned to her hometown of London. She doesn't know much about the situation in the beautiful country than Bucky, an outsider. Can't help much either. Putting the matter of Bucky aside for now, the two of them were also very curious as to why Peggy Carter appeared here. However, when asked here, Bucky was surprised to find that the heroine who faced the Third Reich and the Hydra, who never frowned at all difficulties and countless obstacles, had a look of sadness on her face. Because in the past 3 months or so, she occasionally suddenly forgot what she was going to do, and she just forgot it completely. If others didn't remind her, she couldn't remember it at all. And not once or twice, but once every few days. Half a month ago, the results of her examination at the London hospital came out, and she was an early symptom of Alzheimer's disease, also known as senile dementia. It's not surprising when you think about it. Peggy Carter is a year or two older than Bucky and his good friends, but a little younger than Howard, and now he is in his 70s. And not only did she lead the charge during World War E, but she also joined S.H.I.E.L.D. after the war and continued to fight on the front line. She suffered no fewer injuries than Bucky and Captain America, and she hadn't received any enhancements yet. Now, her body began to feed back the hidden dangers suppressed by her previous overdraft to her little by little. Such a situation made Bucky sigh again. Time is not forgiving. Peggy Carter Generation Heroine. Even though this kind of thing happened in her later years, she did not panic, but quickly accepted the reality. She immediately put down the S.H.I.E.L.D. affairs in London and came to the beautiful country to come to the hospital here for a review. After that, she would resign from S.H.I.E.L.D. In her case, even if S.H.I.E.L.D. can find the world's top experts in this area, this is a medical problem that Bucky has not been able to solve in the 20s before his time travel. Unless it's superpowers, black technology, or alien technology. Bucky knew that one of Marvel's 3 major alien races, the Kree Empire, had come to Earth a long time ago, experimenting with Kree genes and human genes on Earth to create super soldiers. S.H.I.E.L.D. has a Kree corpse and uses it to research cures. Bucky couldn't believe it. S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't have a similar project. After all, Aegis Hydra does not separate families. Hydra was originally doing it, looking for supernatural and surreal existence, trying to break through the limits of human beings, and sublimating humans into more advanced species. Aegis Hydra has also been doing it. But Peggy Carter, like Howard Stark, is open-minded. Her life has been wonderful enough. She has had an unforgettable love, a normal life, and a complete and happy family. She doesn't need any superpowers, transformations, to change her life experience, to make those precious memories go bad. Bucky admired this from the bottom of his heart, but he was not envious. Not qualified, let alone want to. Knowing the trend of the world, he will not follow the trend and muddle along. It won't be because Thanos will come 30 years later, just enjoy 30 years, and follow the calculation with your eyes closed. He wants to hold fate tightly in his hands. He is also unwilling to be ordinary. For him, ordinary is not something that Peggy desires, but something that has accompanied him for more than 20 years, year after year, day after day. He just wants to be great. As Sharon Carter said, he is going to be a real living legend. However, Peggy's situation still made Bucky a little embarrassed. Bucky's own inspection was just a formality and a show. After that, Howard went to do an MRI for Peggy to study her condition. With the help of Howard, a super genius, Peggy's situation should be better. And Bucky, who had nothing to do, thought that instead of training his speaking skills with Nick Fury, he might as well go and see the future second wife. It's not that Bucky is joking, but this matter, it's really messy when you think about it. Moreover, even if bad things happened again, Bucky didn't want to be sad. There were enough things to be sad about. The migrant workers who hadn't experienced real happiness for a long time before time travel now just want to be happy, not sad. Teasing the little girl will obviously improve the mood. Can you tell me how you became like this? What kind of mysterious experiment, human cloning, or Terminator who made you like this? Oh, this is all confidential information, you can't tell me, right, sir? The little girl Sharon is very cheerful and generous, and she doesn't know Bucky at all. She watches Bucky curiously and asks questions, like a happy little Oriole, asking non-stop. It is difficult to connect with the heroic agent number 13 in the future. Moreover, she seemed to be following her aunt, whom she hadn't seen for a long time, and who was feeling a little unwell, for a physical examination, and she didn't know Peggy's real situation. I'm not an officer, but the situation is a bit special. I really can't tell you for the time being. Someone will come to tell you later that everything I've seen today, including my existence, can't be mentioned to anyone. That's it. Although Sharon became more curious, she nodded and agreed directly. You can say you met Johnny, though. Who? I, Robert Johnny Lind, an extra, was called in to dress up as some guy named Bucky Barnes, and I was told I looked like him. Bucky, that didn't sound like anything serious name. Do you want to eat something? You. Ha ha ha, you are so funny. The little girl who was still a rookie student was really fooled by Bucky for a moment, and then she burst into laughter. So Johnny, I'm Sharon, nice to meet you. Me too, Sharon. Tell me about you. Where did you study? You guys had a good time chatting. While chatting without saying a word, at the corner at the end of the corridor, a man and a woman, white-haired old man and old lady appeared. Compared to Howard's preoccupation, Peggy looked at her niece and smiled kindly. Peggy, you're here. Come and talk to your niece. With my friendship with Steve, it's not too much for her to call me uncle, right? Of course. Peggy felt a little sweet in her heart when she heard the old man mention Steve, but she felt that the old man's tone was weird. Bucky didn't look like this, did he? It seems that amnesia has had a great impact on him. Peggy, I will help you research a plan as soon as possible. Howard is still worried about Peggy's situation. He is free and easy, but he is very concerned about his friends. At his age, he may lose one friend at any time, and he cherishes every one of them. Howard, don't worry about me, your affairs are more important. After chatting for a few words, Peggy took her niece, and both of them left with some reluctance. One wanted to catch up with old friends, and the other met a very interesting person. But Peggy knew that Howard and Bucky still had important things to do, and her current situation was not suitable for her to participate. Bucky also finished the inspection, left the inspection results, and left with Howard. Came to another of his laboratories in New York, specializing in human mechanics and engineering. He was going to be here, to do some physical tests for Bucky, to do further research. It just so happened that Bucky also needed to test the limits of his body in order to control it more perfectly. Running speed 8.1 seconds every 100 meters, long jump 12.5 meters, and vertical jump height 1.56 meters. Right arm pulling force 161 kilograms, and left arm pulling force 1.3 tons. Heart rate 56 beats per minute when running. 1-by-1 physical fitness test. The more the test, the more Howard expressed his admiration. It's not admiration, after all, he has personally created a better and more amazing big muscle dominator, but he still admires Dr. Zola, the maker of Bucky's simplified version. Well, Howard, a genius inventor, naturally wouldn't admire Bucky's muscular dominance, he would only sympathize with the genius's wisdom. He only felt that being able to use the blood sample of Red Skull, a failed serum transformation product, to create a super soldier like Bucky, even if it required brainwashing control, was enough to prove Dr. Zola's genius mind. After finishing the preliminary test, Howard left. He had too many things to be busy. For example, the unpretentious and boring job of the CEO of Stark Industries, which has a market value of tens of billions. There is also the previously frightened wife who needs to be appeased, and the incompetent son who needs to be disciplined. Now, more importantly, start investigating the internal problems of S.H.I.E.L.D. As for Bucky, he will not be brought to S.H.I.E.L.D. And after Hydra blows up, S.H.I.E.L.D. will follow suit. He doesn't want any actions that may cause the enemy to act aggressively. So Bucky lives in this laboratory temporarily, which happens to be where ergonomics is studied. There are a lot of fitness equipment for data collection, and there is a spacious enough space. Bucky turned into an iron maniac, getting familiar with his body here. This stroke is 3 days, and these 3 days have been peaceful. Although Bucky stayed behind closed doors, it wasn't that no one knew he was here. On the contrary, there are S.H.I.E.L.D. agents around here watching 24. But there was no movement from Alexander Pierce. The other parties seemed to be observing and did not want to act rashly. It's like hunters who regard each other as prey, and patiently lurk, waiting for each other to show their flaws first. While pulling iron, Bucky is also dismantling. Now that he hugged Howard Stark's thick platinum legs, Bucky would naturally not be polite to him, and asked him for a lot of mechanical tools and electronic products. And as long as it is expensive, the latest electronic chips, memory sticks, and motherboards, Bucky directly disassembled it. The more advanced the item being disassembled, the higher the chances of dismantling higher-level components. And Howard didn't feel bad when Bucky dismantled 5 precious collectible shotguns, let alone some ordinary things. With the support of Shenhao, Bucky finally took out his long-awaited, epic-level quick crack component, and can make the first green excellent level, quick crack plugin. System: make plugin target positioning, make plugin electromagnetic short circuit. System information: consumption of excellent fast crack plugin 50, rare 30, epic 10, well-made green target positioning 1, electromagnetic short circuit 1. Target positioning: highlight the target enemy and all his accomplices around him in the field of vision. The highlighted enemy can be scanned and quickly cracked through obstacles. 1 RAM consumption, lasts 20 seconds, cooldown time is 15 seconds. Electromagnetic short circuit, non-fatal, causes 66 points of electric shock damage per second to the target, double damage to drones, mechas, robots and other targets. The target will be paralyzed by electric shock, consumes 3 RAM, lasts for 3 seconds, cooldown time 15 seconds. Non-lethal, automatically terminates when the damage is about to kill the target. Finally there is Magic, Bucky's long-awaited quick crack plugin, aka Magic, is finally in his hands. Target positioning is equivalent to detection magic, and after detection, you can ignore obstacles and directly perform an electromagnetic short circuit on the target, which is a lightning magic attack. This is simply more powerful than a mage rubbing a fireball. And the creation Experience value of the system is increased according to the components consumed for making items. After building 2 plugins that require purple epic components, Bucky's creation expertise has been upgraded by another level. In the past 3 days, Bucky has hacked into the electronic equipment here, and the invasion protocol has also been upgraded to level 2. Character: James Buchanan Barnes. Level 2. Flesh 8, Movement 7, Annihilation 7, Brawl 7. Reaction 8, Pistol 7, Assault 7, Sword 7, Technology 4, Engineering 1, Crafting 3. Intelligence 7, Intrusion Protocol 2, Quick Crack 1. Calm 11, Stealth 7, Cold Blood 1. As long as you upgrade to another level of production, when you reach level 4, you will automatically unlock the formulas for basic firearms and armors of green and excellent quality. However, the level of expertise cannot exceed the corresponding attribute level. If you have 4 points of technology, you can only have 4 points of expertise. If you want to improve production, you must add technology. This gave Bucky a more urgent desire to upgrade. I just got tired of staying here, and for a while, Howard will not make any big moves. Bucky was going to go out for a walk. I haven't had a good time visiting New York, the Pearl City of the beautiful country. Before time travel, there was a catchphrase on the internet: Happy America, gun battles every day. The more prosperous the city, the easier it is for crime to breed in its shadows. After confronting Hydra, Bucky felt that it was necessary for him to be a street hero like the Punisher, Daredevil, and Spider-Man. New York. Brooklyn. Bucky's original home, and the home of his good friend Steve, because both of them were identified as Kia, and they were killed in the execution battle, and neither of them had a legal heir, so the real estate was confiscated. However, for Howard, who is at the same level as Bateman who bought the bank next door just to delay repayment for Superman, he bought the entire residential building built on the land of the 2 people's original houses, and found another room for them. Bucky lives, it's just a matter of sprinkling water. However, Bucky, who was not in his original body, felt that with this money, it would be great to give me a penthouse on the Upper East Side to live in. Bucky spent the past few days alone in the laboratory, and Howard also sent someone the key, so he has a nest. The house is not big, a 2-bedroom of more than 70 square meters, with a small bedroom and a large living room, a bit like the apartment of Sheldon and Ronald in The Big Bang Theory. I walked around the neighborhood around the house, and it's not the same as Bucky's original sporadic memories. There are more Africans here, and there are also many Asians. During this period, the problem of racial discrimination was very serious, but Africans already consciously huddling together to keep warm and fighting. Of course, black people still can't compete with white people, and they can't get much benefit from white people. So they began to turn their targets to the more discriminated Asian ethnic group and began to exclude the Chinese. Not long after Bucky went out, he saw in a convenience store by the side of the road, 2 mudboys, holding a revolver, pointing at a Chinese boss. The boss was sad and helpless, tremblingly taking money from the cash register. He didn't find it strange, until when he crossed over, all the information he saw was also the virtue of this bird. Don't look at Africans who talk about discrimination every day, but they bully the more vulnerable Asians, Mexicans, etc. ethnic groups, even worse. Every time African Americans protest and march, the unlucky ones are always Chinese-owned shops, which are beaten, smashed, robbed and set on fire. Only those African Americans still complain all day long, saying that this is their resistance to injustice. Before time traveling, he always took this as a joke: genius ideas can always pop up in the minds of idiots. Discrimination must be fought, but for those who are discriminated against in front of others, you can make a comparison. Now in such a situation, in addition to gaining experience, Bucky also has the excitement and eagerness to be a hero. Seems pretty cool to be a street hero, but it's not good to just rush over and give those 2 money grabbers directly. Well, it's time to try out your new abilities. $32? Do you want to die for messing with Fok, you wonkby monkey mother? Yeah. Old stuff. You wonkby monkeys are the most cunning. You must have hidden the money. Take it out quickly, or your brain will be blown out with 1 shot, damn it. I'm really gone. This is the 3rd wave of you guys this week. There's really only so much left. In the convenience store, 1 tall and 1 short, a tall thin man and a short and fat man, 2 African Americans with hoods and triangular masks, pointed guns at the shivering Asian boss. The boss is a skinny old man with a weather-beaten face, and now he is even more sad, even sad and angry, but he can only keep begging, hoping that the other party can at least save his life. Listen. We don't have that much time to watch you act. Get the money out. I'll count to 3, and I'll shoot if I don't pay. 1. However, the 2 black brothers who robbed the money didn't care about the boss's pleas at all. They only knew that if they didn't get the money, there would be no grass rolls, and there would be no big PP girls, so fuck fake. No. Don't shoot. I'm really out of money. You guys get some stuff from the store. Ah. 2. Angrily, the little African American hit the boss on the forehead with the handle of the gun, causing him to cry out in an instant, but the little man didn't care about it, and he was the second most viciously, and even pushed the hammer of the revolver away. Hey bro. Hey. The tall man didn't want to really cause death, seeing the little man was a little anxious, and just wanted to dissuade him. However, an electric arc suddenly erupted from the short man's body. However, it seemed to be delusional, because the arc was fleeting. But the little man didn't say a word, and suddenly fell to the ground with convulsions all over, but told him that it wasn't because he was pumping straw rolls to get high. Wong Defa. Hey, brother, what's wrong with you? The tall man, who didn't understand the situation, was really taken aback. Didn't he hear that this guy had any kind of epilepsy? Brother, stop making trouble, get up quickly. Brother Mew, please. After calling a few times, the short man not only didn't respond, he stopped twitching, foaming and rolling his eyes. This made the tall man panic immediately. Hey, why don't you go and I'll call 911 for you? On the contrary, the boss, who had already closed his eyes and waited for death in despair, said cautiously. It's not that he doesn't hate these two unreasonable bastards, but that's how life is. Although he doesn't know what happened, it seems that he escaped a catastrophe, and then he doesn't want anyone to die in his shop. FCKU. Old thing. Your mother messed with FCK. Fuck. The tall man was angry, but there was nothing wrong with him, so he just ran away. The tall man scolded, and he didn't miss out, snatched the money from the boss, and then turned around and ran away regardless of his good brother on the ground. The boss finally breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly an electric arc erupted from the tall man's body, but it was only for a moment, making the boss think that he was too frightened and had hallucinations. Gudong. But the tall man also twitched all over, and fell to the ground without saying a word, and went to accompany his good brother. Is there a wire leakage in my shop? The boss blinked, completely confused about what was going on, but called the police as soon as possible. Those who robbed and were robbed had no idea what was going on. And knowing what this is all about, he has long since left, hiding his merit and fame. HMPH, the effect is really good, but the damage is a bit low, and it can't cause fatal damage to an ordinary person, but it is non-fatal anyway. And the cooldown time is 15 seconds, which is still a bit long, but the contagion of group attacks, damage even lower than this, even ordinary people can survive. Bucky, who seems to be just passing by for soy sauce, has actually tried his quick crack ability, which is magic, for the first time. First use, target positioning, to lock the two robbers, and then feel very strange. Even if you have gone far, you can still see the highlighted virtual image of the two people separated by several floors of buildings. Then use electromagnetic short circuit to kill the short guy whose behavior is more intense, wait for the skill to cool down, and then kill the other one. The skills are very powerful, and it is easy to defeat the enemy silently, and it is a bit staring at everyone. But Bucky also knew that these were just two ordinary people. In other situations, such as two heavily armed soldiers, the situation might be different. And 2 is the limit. The skill cooling time is a full 15 seconds. If there is one more person, it will take 30 seconds, and the third one will react anyway. In the situation just now, the third one might be frightened, so give it directly. The boss ran away with one shot. That's not what Bucky meant. In fact, Bucky can also make a group attack skill, which is combined contagion, which can cause the target and his accomplices within a certain range to have extremely uncomfortable pain reactions, including but not limited to headaches, vomiting, dyspnea, abdominal pain, etc. symptom. But the joint infection is also non-fatal, and the damage is smaller. It may not be able to cause a near-death state to ordinary people. If you want to really subdue the enemy, you need Bucky to make up the knife. Bucky's network intrusion is similar to Mage, and it is also a late-stage genre. It needs the support of intelligence attributes, specialties, and equipment plugins to cause enough damage and use it frequently enough. The current Bucky is equivalent to a level 1 mage who has just learned how to make fireballs and ice bombs. His skills seem cool, but they are too restrictive. Fortunately, the potential is huge, and it will develop slowly in the future. In short, Bucky, who has tried his hand at the sword, is still very satisfied with the results of his first chivalry. Not only did he help innocent people, but he also benefited himself. Not just psychological satisfaction. More substantive gains. System information. Defeat 2 armed robbers, complete the daily reward. Reward 150 experience points, random item box, normal, *1. These two little thieves not only provided experience points and the proficiency of the quick crack specialty, but also allowed Bucky to collect a daily task, extra experience points, and a random box. Although it is just an ordinary level box, and only ordinary items can be opened, or green high-quality items are very rare, there is always a sense of expectation when opening the box. System information. Open a random item box, common, and get Locust Pepperoni Pizza 1. Locust Pepperoni Pizza. Max HP plus 5%, if out of combat, recovers 0.5% of horsepower per second, the effect lasts for 450 seconds. Bucky looked at the 3 servings of food in the system's inventory. The effect was not bad. It added 7% of the upper limit of life within 5.5 minutes, and he could recover his life when he left the battle. It is the food of cyberpunk, which is more or less weird, like this pizza. Not the brand is locusts, but it is really made of locusts, and the pizza is densely covered with a layer of locusts. Fortunately, the food in the system is directly consumed in the system, not taken out to eat. In short, it can be said that Bucky was very successful as a street hero for the first time. He can't wait to do it again. Root, rob, rob, rob. This isn't some gangster with a gun who storms a bank's jewelry store. This is a transmigrator who sneaks around in the street under the name of Bucky Barnes. The second chivalrous action did not happen as soon as Bucky expected. Think about it, even though this is Brooklyn, not the honest Gotham City next door, and it's impossible to go out in broad daylight and encounter so many crimes casually. Bucky knew that he was still too excited, and he was not satisfied with the task reward of such a small robbery. He wished that there would be a wave of bank robbers right away. It's just that there was no criminal activity, but Bucky wandered around for a long time, and found that he turned around and turned back to the convenience store before. Then I saw that the 2 unlucky robbers were gone, and there were no policemen. It was probably regarded as an ordinary robbery, and it happened that the 2 robbers had some acute illness or something. And the old Asian boss, who was a little impatient and embarrassed, waved at a little bean, as if he was slamming people. Bucky couldn't help being a little curious, so he went over to watch the excitement. Please, I just want something to eat, I'm really hungry. Little friend, please go away. If I don't call the police, you are considered lucky. If you don't leave, I will find social service personnel. So young, he ran away from home. Bucky walked into the convenience store without making a sound, and heard the shop owner and the little doubting, who was less than his waist height and looked a little dirty, said so. It seemed that the boss was really afraid of trouble and getting involved in right and wrong. When he saw such a young child, he didn't even ask her what was going on. He just wanted to blow things away. Although this is a lack of love, such a shop owner who has been bullied is not doing anything illegal and disciplined, but everyone cleans up their own doorsteps, and it is not Bucky's turn to criticize him. The store owner is afraid of trouble, but Bucky is not. Seeing the Asian in front of him with a little bit of mixed race features, very cute, wearing shabby little doubting, anxious and aggrieved, wanting to cry, but stubbornly not letting himself cry, Bucky couldn't help but feel soft. Boss, check out. Bucky went to grab some snacks and 2 bottles of drinks, and put them on the counter. What? What? But I forgot that I have a system bonus, Calmness 11 Stealth 7, when I don't want people to find out, I really don't make a sound. Let the 2 people who were talking scream out in fright as if they had seen a ghost. Sorry, guest. It's okay, don't look for it. Bucky didn't let the boss settle the score, and directly threw a Franklin card over. Anyway, it was the living expenses given by Howard Stark, and Bucky didn't feel bad at all. And it was also Xiao Doubting who saw a tall, handsome, glamorous man appearing, a little ashamed and guilty. After all, he did something bad before and ran out directly. But Bucky was not in a hurry to catch up and stop Xiao Doubting. Anyway, he had already locked her with the target location, and he would definitely not lose her. It would be an electromagnetic short circuit at worst. Cough, you can't gain experience like this, although you can't recruit NCPD the terrorist squad, but it is not so frenzied. Bucky just followed Xiao Doubting all the way to the back alley of a dilapidated residential building nearby. Even this kind of owner can't manage it. I don't know how many dilapidated houses there are, and how many dilapidated buildings where there are poisonous vagrants. Xiao Doubting can't live in it. Of course, she probably doesn't dare to live in it. Build a house with cardboard. If it wasn't for being Asian, Bucky might have thought that Phoebe from Friends had messed in. Bucky walked over slowly, far away, and with his keen 5 senses, he heard a whimper. This reminded him of the dirty and injured little milk dog on the side of the road. Woo. Why can't I have a home? You don't have a home? Ah. Don't come here. I'm really sorry to scare you again. Do you mean that I look like a bad guy? Bucky is a little helpless. As long as he has the idea of quietly, and walks lightly, calmness and stealth will take effect. Suck. It's you. What do you want? I want to sympathize with you, otherwise what else can I do? Put the thing in your hand first. You are not afraid of getting infected by such a dirty thing. Are you not afraid of getting an injection? Bucky looked at Shouting, who was frightened, holding a fragment of a wine bottle in both hands, facing himself defensively, sighed, and felt agitated for no reason. Such a goddamn world. I don't need sympathy. Shouting put down the broken glass, raised his head, and said very stubbornly. Hey, little guy, besides sympathizing with you, what reason do I have to help you for free? You don't need sympathy. Do you really need someone to help you with ulterior motives? You man. Shouting knew some tricks, but was instantly speechless by Bucky's weird posture. Tell me, what's the situation with you? Where did you escape from, an orphanage or a foster family? Bucky didn't bother to say anything gentle and pleasant, that would require too much patience and time, and this miserable little Doubting also had too much guard. Anyway, this little Doubting must have suffered a lot, and she wouldn't care if her tongue was a little bit harsh. And Bucky has a special communication gesture. That is to use feeding as an aid. He unwrapped a piece of cream-filled cake he bought just now, broke off half and stuffed it into his mouth, and handed the other half to Shouting. Suck. Little Doubting, who was so hungry, didn't sniff his nose this time, but drool. And she finally couldn't bear the aroma of the cream, took it carefully, and stuffed it into her mouth. Shouting was instantly overwhelmed by the cream and sugar, and snorted comfortably. It's not a little milk dog, but a little milk cat. Seeing Shouting's expression of enjoyment, Bucky's irritability also dissipated a little. Foster family. I ran away from the foster family. Do you want to send me back? Shouting was fed another bar of wafer chocolate and drank a few mouthfuls of fruit juice, and finally gave the answer. Why? The foster family treats you badly. It's better than it is now. Shouting sighed, showing the expression of a young adult. She has been beaten by the society without any pretensions. Although I am allowed to watch the children, change diapers, wash clothes, eat their leftovers, have no hot water for bathing, sleep in the basement, and have no new clothes to wear, if something goes wrong, you can take it out on me. Really? It wasn't you who set the house on fire mischievously, ran away in fear, and used this trick to fool me, right? What about you? The trust between people. Shouting rolled her eyes like a grown-up. She never expected that the kind-hearted person she met would be such an incomprehensible person. But also because Bucky didn't really doubt it, but kept teasing her. Gradually, he really let go of his guard. She let her guard down. But because of her next action, Bucky's pupils shrank and his teeth creaked. Shouting pulled up the clothes on his arms. Bucky saw bruises on her slender arms. Not just livid ones, but some fading ones, and some pale yellow ones. Obviously, what happened to Shouting did not happen in a day or two. The foster family who took her in obviously didn't really want to take care of her, but they treated it as a business, and took the positive subsidy to deduct and exploit the adopted children. That's all. At least it can be regarded as a feeder, and an adopted child has no ability to choose. But not only that, but also abused her. Is it human? Bursts of anger kept rushing towards Bucky's head, making him want to rush directly to Shouting's foster family, and deal with the people who take care of Shouting as he had dealt with the soldiers of Hydra before. Doing evil does not require superpowers. What happened to Shouting? Such a crime is no less serious than a supervillain killing people in the street. Come on, come with me. Hey, you don't want to take me in, do you? Shouting actually had a glimmer of hope in her heart. Although this kind-hearted man was a little weird and his mouth was a little bit poisonous, in her heart, compared to what happened to her, how could it be worse? No, actually I'm from Karma, and I'm going to take you to see the goldfish. Still inexperienced, Bucky feels that Shouting is still too naive. Compared with this terrible reality, what happened to you is nothing. You man, can't you speak well? Shouting's face was full of anger, but in fact, apart from looking forward to it, she was also a little scared, not because she was afraid of Bucky, but she could feel that this handsome uncle only had kindness towards her. She is just afraid of the unknown future. How about I give you some money and you feed the mice yourself? Well, just trust you once, you don't look like a bad person. Do you want to be a face dog at a young age? Don't you know that face is the most deceptive? Be careful of being deceived by scumbags in the future. Just like that, one big and one small chattered and walked out of the alley. By the way, I still don't know what your name is. Sky. My name is Sky. How about you, Uncle? Johnny, your name. What did you say your name was? Just as Bucky was about to say, your name is a bit strange, he suddenly froze. Sky. Uncle, you have to listen carefully to what people say. Last name? It's Sky. I chose it myself. I don't need that name they used to scold me. I see. Bucky stroked the poor little guy's head, but his heart exploded. Walking around the street casually, I picked up a future Shockwave, World Destroyer, Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Some anime. What kind of fairy luck is this? It would be great if there was an orange legend box. Now that it is opened, maybe a golden legend can be produced. Cool, uncle, your car is so cool. Xiao Doubting couldn't help admiring the silver-gray Ford Mustang that Howard matched with Bucky. Okay. Bucky spent a long time as a street stalker, taking little dude and Sky to find a car, and along the way, he also digested the fact that he might, maybe, probably be a European emperor. Uncle, where is your home? Brooklyn. But you're heading for Manhattan. Where are we going? Hospital. Bucky kept thinking, and couldn't help being a little silent. Why go to the hospital? Karma waste. Can't you say something nice? Doesn't your conscience hurt when you treat a child like this? I don't have a conscience. A conscience will only hinder the speed of my waste. Do you believe me when I jump off the car? Well, of course I went to the hospital to see a doctor. Are you sick? My brain has been stimulated recently, and I just lost my memory. Bickering with Xiao Doubting all the way, I got to know a little bit about her situation. Little Sky, who is only 7 years old this year, was transferred from an orphanage to a foster family for a year. But if calculated according to the MCU, Sky's first appearance was after Iron Man 3, and she should be in her 20s at that time? The little Sky in front of me will be in his early 30s by then. But the world I travel through will not be a standard MCU timeline, at least Sky never appears in the movie. Sharon Carter, who I met before, is 15 years old this year. When she arrived in US Team 2, she was 39 years old. Of course, she is well maintained and has a natural beauty. She will still be not much different from the one in the movie. In short, there is a little discrepancy, which is not too strange. It's just that this little Doubting is really Sky, the super hacker who hacked the S.H.I.E.L.D. server with a laptop and the inhuman Shockwave. In memory, Sky was originally called Daisy Johnson, his father was the supervillain Dr. Hyde, and his mother was Jia Ying, the leader of the inhuman race on Earth. The family lived in a small town in the east. Not long after Jia gave birth to Sky, she was caught by Hydra, subjected to cruel experiments and thrown away. But her inhuman ability is to absorb life force. Her father, Dr. Hyde, couldn't bear his wife's death, so he asked Jia to absorb the life force of the villagers. Jia was revived because of this, and because of this ability, Dr. Hyde had to inject a special medicine to become. He defeated Damuba, subdued Jia, and took Sky away. Her father then gave it to a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent for her own good, and that agent sent Sky to an orphanage, where he kept an eye on her until an unfortunate accident during a mission. Originally, for this little Doubting with a miserable life experience, Bucky thought of a way to arrange it, which was to hand it over to S.H.I.E.L.D. Let S.H.I.E.L.D. take her in, join S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy, and become an agent, which is what she was supposed to be anyway. Although it is a bit strange that the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent does not pay attention to Sky now, but it is probably also a matter of timeline. In short, handing over Sky to S.H.I.E.L.D., a powerful organization like S.H.I.E.L.D., is a good way to settle the foster family and place Sky properly. But now that I know it's Sky, Bucky had some new ideas. Manhattan. Hospital. Of course, it was the last time I looked at my brain and met my sister-in-law and second sister-in-law. It was the same corridor as last time. Bucky and Ding Dingsky were sitting on chairs. He'd spoken to Howard on the phone and was waiting for his assigned S.H.I.E.L.D. agent to arrive. Little Sky and Bucky were used to bickering all the way. Looking at this place, which is different from ordinary hospitals, they couldn't help asking, "Uncle, where is this? You really want to rub my waist, right?" "Yeah. Go buy some snacks and make up for it in advance. Oh, don't buy D3, it's easy to get stuck." Bucky handed little Sky a few coins, and the little guy hurriedly went to buy some snacks. He could see that the little guy was still very uneasy. In fact, it was because the kid didn't think too much, otherwise he wouldn't have followed him so easily, but he definitely still felt very insecure. But this is not something that can be changed in a short period of time. It will take a while for an abused puppy to get rid of its guard, let alone a human being. Click, click, click. And just when Bucky was thinking about how to make the little guy let down his guard further, there was a rush of high-heeled shoes walking. The cold Asian face that Bucky had seen before came into view. Bucky didn't expect that the person sent by S.H.I.E.L.D. to help him was actually this person. Looking at the heroic lady agent in a women's suit, looking at shout-outing Sky, I thought that these two were really destined. Yes, the person who came was the one I had seen before, the partner of Hairline Agent Coulson, who would also be the partner of Shockwave in the future, May Lindamay, nicknamed Iron Cavalry. The nickname of Iron Cavalry means that she has excellent abilities, and she has performed the most dangerous missions many times, rescuing agents in distress, like the most heroic knight descending from the sky. So she should be on the front line to perform dangerous tasks, but she suddenly appeared here and met little Sky in advance, so it can only be explained by fate. The current Melinda is much younger than the one in Bucky's impression, only 27 in appearance, but in terms of temperament, she is exactly the same as Bucky's impression, an unsmiling iceberg. She glanced at little Sky lightly, and she was terrified, and grabbed Bucky's sleeve with her small hand. "Sir, Melinda May, I have been ordered to assist you. You don't need to be so formal, just call me Johnny. Sky, come and say hello to Ms. May." Ms. May, hello." Little Sky is timid, in fact, this is her proper attitude towards strangers. Melinda just nodded. "Then Sky will leave it to you. Sky, follow this sister, it's fine." Bucky looked at Sky, who was afraid to get close to Melinda, who was full of unapproachable aura, rubbed her little head, and thought to himself, "Where did your energy to bicker with me go?" Sky turned her head 3 times and followed the ant, who looked very powerful, and left. At this time, she was really worried about what she would face. Bucky, however, received another call. "Bucky, do you see something special about her?" In the little brick phone, there came the voice of a rich man who gave this phone to Bucky. Howard didn't talk about Sky, didn't talk about the little girl, just about her, and Bucky knew he was careful about what he did now. "No, I just think she's pitiful, so I can't just leave it alone. What's wrong with her? Is it really all right? Is there really a problem? I'll let someone go over and talk to you face to face. Are you so busy?" It was not convenient to say what Bucky wanted to ask on the phone, and Howard only said a few words before ending the call early. On the other side, it didn't take long before Melinda brought little Sky back with a livid face. If she was an ice cube before, she is liquid nitrogen now. Obviously, she also saw what happened to little Sky. "Is everything done?" "Well, after the injury certificate is issued, I will contact the police station, and there will also be personnel from the Child Protection Agency. More than Hydra people are lurking in every corner of the world, in every industry, and S.H.I.E.L.D. is the same. Not only combatants, but also a large number of ordinary people, in ordinary industries, provide information for S.H.I.E.L.D. Then naturally the police station and all kinds of positive organizations will have their own people. This matter will go through the normal legal process, but, from the investigator to the police to the district attorney, and even the lawyer hired by the foster family couple, are all people from S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, or Aegis Hydra, but in this case, it makes no difference. Afterwards, investigators from the Child Protection Agency came and questioned Sky. After going through the process, Bucky became Sky's temporary caregiver. "Uncle Johnny, why do you care about me so much?" Little Sky sat in Bucky's car, watching the sky getting dark outside and the street lights gradually turning on. His tone was full of uncertainty. "Because I found out that you were Shockwave, and when I saw me, your story must be different from what I remembered. I was afraid that if I handed you over to S.H.I.E.L.D., you would be fooled by Hydra. True world breaker." Although Bucky thought so in his heart, he just reached out and rubbed her little head, messing with her soft and thin hair. "Why can't I care about you? Don't be so desperate, and don't look at the world so badly." Bucky, who was getting serious, got stuck at this point. This world is far worse than you imagined, in various senses. In short, don't think too much, eat a good meal first, get a good sleep, everything will pass. Really? Of course, is it possible that time will go back? It will always be tomorrow. You man. Someone played handsome for only 3 minutes, one big and one small, and the bickering mode resumed. "I took little Sky to have a meal at Papa John's. Pizza is much more attractive to children than any Michelin-starred meal." Little Sky, who had a round belly, made Bucky a little worried. "Little guy, don't be a little fat girl." "Uncle Johnny, is this your home?" "Well, it's your home now." Back home, Bucky took off his coat and gloves, and said to Sky, "Also, my real name is James Buchanan Barnes. Everyone I know calls me Bucky. Of course, I'm called Johnny, Robert Johnny Lind." "Uncle, you can't really be a spy agent or something, and that anti-ice cube. Wow. What is this?" No matter how young Sky was, she was born smart, and she became precocious because of the beatings she received from the society. She could still guess that Bucky was not an ordinary person. Although she couldn't hear the conversations between Bucky and Aunt Bingcube in that hospital, I understand, but it seems to be very powerful. But just when she was thinking, "Johnny, oh, what kind of secret spy is Uncle Bucky?" she saw that Uncle Bucky turned out to be a robot. "Uncle, are you a Terminator?" "Kids, don't think about it. It's just a metal arm. When the uncle broke his arm during the war, he installed a prosthesis." Bucky flicked the truth casually, but felt a little weird in his heart. When he came to this world, everyone he came into contact with was surprised by him, That little Sky didn't respond to his name. Uncle, you are lying. You must be the Terminator, and you are here to protect me. Wow. It is true in the movie. Could it be that I am John Connor, and I will become the leader of the future rebel army? Uncle, what model are you? Bucky watched the little guy circling around him helplessly, pinching his arm for a while, and his thigh for a while. My heart said, what is a Terminator? You wait for my whole body to be transformed into a prosthetic body and become the number 17 cyber psychopath. It took quite a while before Bucky fooled the little guy and reluctantly accepted the setting of Stark Group's latest nerve-linked prosthetic medical experiment volunteer. The change of identity was only because of the commercial confidentiality agreement signed with Stark Group. Leaked will lose a lot of money. Bucky, who was overwhelmed by the little guy's chatter, decided not to tell her about his more bizarre experiences for the time being.